Chapter 87. The moment he swung his arm, a rumbling sound reverberated in the air. A series of ripples immediately appeared in the air between the arm and Sure Hai and the other 8 people. Sure Hai and the other 8 people shuddered as if a huge force had crashed into their bodies. The chi in their bodies broke apart, and their faces turned pale as they coughed out a huge mouthful of blood. They tumbled backwards and fell to the ground. They may not have died, but their bodies felt as if they were about to explode. They could not stand up. You didn't die. You're one of the weaker descendants of the great tribe of Man Meow. You can't underestimate it. After all, your blood still contains some of the legacy of the great tribe of Man Meow. As the ghastly voice echoed in the air, an unknown method was used in the fog, causing the strange beast's roar to contain a hint of pain. A sealed dark rock. It's not hard to take it. The seal has already restricted most of your power. Let's see how you fight back. There was a hint of joy in the ghastly voice. Yet at that moment, a low roar came from the sky in the distance. Thief, how dare you destroy our sacred mountain? Following the voice was the enraged elder of Windstream Tribe, Jingnan. Behind him was a beautiful but cold woman dressed in purple. She was already middle-aged, but her beauty did not diminish in the slightest. At that moment, there was a murderous glint in her eyes, which contained the same anger and murderous intent. Once the 2 of them arrived, they did not hesitate. They rushed into the crack and into the thick black fog in Windstream Mountain. Soon after, booming sounds shook the sky and earth as they traveled out from within the black fog. Jingnan's low roars could also be heard. Su Ming did not know what happened in Windstream Mountain. Even if he knew, he would not care about it. The most important thing for him now was to return to the tribe as soon as possible. He wanted to see whether the tribe was still around. He wanted to see whether his tribe members were still safe. After his nervousness, anxiety, and madness passed, he fell into silence. He ran quietly on the ground and in the snow. A long time had passed since the elder left. The sky was still slightly bright. Su Ming knew that with the dark python's speed, the elder and the others would have already returned to the tribe. Nothing must go wrong. Su Ming continued leaping on the ground, bringing forth the fastest speed he could muster in his life. His speed was so fast that, at first glance, he seemed to be right in front of him, but in the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared into the distance. He ran with all his might, even ignoring his exhaustion. In order to increase his speed, the 243 blood veins that covered his entire body kept erupting with power, increasing his speed. When the sky was completely lit up and the sun rose, its rays shone on the ground. The snow on the ground gave off a piercing silver glow. Su Ming ran out of the plains where Windstream Tribe was located and rushed into the withered forest. He approached the trading square he had been to before. The one he had been to before. With his previous speed, it would have taken him more than half a day to cover this distance. But now, with his silence, it only took him less than 4 hours. This sort of speed was already incredibly fast and unbelievable, but to Su Ming, it was still too slow. He did not roar anymore. Instead, in the silence, veins popped up on his legs. He ran through the forest, and with a flash, he leaped up and used the momentum to run once again. As he continued running, Su Ming's entire body was drenched in sweat. Not only were his legs in pain, almost every part of his body was aching. Time passed by. Gradually, it was noon. The snow was no longer falling from the sky. There were no clouds in the sky, and it was clear. However, there was a person running quietly in the forest on the ground. His sweat could not even drip down his skin before it was immediately left behind. What supported Su Ming was determination and determination. He was worried about his tribe's safety and worried about his tribe's survival. That indescribable feeling made him feel as if his body had become empty, and the only thing that existed was his determination to continue running. The distance that could have been covered if Su Ming did not listen for an entire night was gradually closed by noon as he ran. Gradually, excitement and anxiety appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He was getting closer to the tribe. His heart pounded against his entire body, making his anxiety grow stronger. He was afraid of seeing the collapse of the tribe. He was afraid of seeing the corpses littering the ground. He was afraid, but his speed did not decrease. There was even a fierce presence within his body. When the outline of Dark Mountain tribe finally appeared in his eyes, Su Ming shuddered and tears fell from his eyes. From afar, the gate to the tribe had collapsed. Many of the giant wooden fences around the tribe were also broken. There was also a thin layer of black smoke rising from the fences. It was clear that the tribe had been burnt down. The tribe was not silent. There was a large number of people in the tribe, as if they were gathering together. When he saw that most of his tribe members were fine, Su Ming's anxiety lessened slightly. But what followed was a wave of killing intent. It was a killing intent directed towards the enemies who destroyed Dark Mountain tribe. Su Ming charged towards the tribe. Before he even got close, he was immediately seen by the berserkers in the hunting team. Their expressions instantly became alert, but when they saw Su Ming, they relaxed. The fatigue on their faces could not be hidden. Su Ming returned to the tribe with tears in his eyes. He walked past the gate that had been blasted to pieces and into the tribe. He saw the fatigue on the faces of the members of the hunting team and the dozens of corpses on the ground in the center of the tribe. Su Ming was familiar with all of those corpses. They were his tribe members. There were people crying beside the corpses. Those were their family members. Their cries echoed in the tribe, making Su Ming's heart ache so much that he felt as if he was about to bleed. He saw the normal members of his tribe. Their faces were filled with grief, fear, and confusion. They were quickly packing up their belongings and running towards the gathering point of the tribe. He saw the young Lassus. There were tears on their young faces, along with fear and terror. They held onto their mother's hands tightly, as if they would never be able to touch her again once they let go. Many of the tents in the tribe had collapsed. The ground was a mess, and there were terrifying bloodstains everywhere. It was clear that a battle had happened here not long ago. As he watched, Su Ming clenched his fists tightly. Hatred appeared in his eyes. It was a rare hatred and bloodlust that could be seen on a boy who was not even 17 years old. Su Ming's tears continued falling. He saw his neighbor's mother, who had always been kind to him since he was young, sitting outside the ruined tent with a dumbfounded expression. There was no one by her side. Her child had died. Her husband had died. She was the only one left, sitting there with a dazed look on her face. When Su Ming looked at her, he could clearly feel an indescribable grief. Black Mountain tribe. Su Ming gritted his teeth. He saw Lei Chun. Lei Chun looked exhausted. He was helping his tribe members gather in the crowd and organizing some of the important items for the tribe. Lei Chun did not notice Su Ming. At that moment, he was already exhausted. Su Ming also saw Wu La, this girl who had always looked down on him, but had a faint admiration for Mo. Su seemed to have grown up in an instant. She carried the bow on her back and stood in the crowd, comforting them softly while also helping them gather as quickly as possible. Chen Xian was also in the crowd. Her delicate expression made her look delicate and pitiful. However, the determination in her eyes also represented that she had grown up. Su Ming did not see the tribe leader, the head of the guards, Shan Hen, or Bei Ling. There were even some powerful berserkers at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm who were not there. But Su Ming saw the elder. The elder was standing in the distance. His face was pale, and he looked as if he had aged too much. It was as if a few decades had passed since that night. At that moment, the elder had his head lowered and was helping a tribe member whose left leg was a bloody mess to heal. That tribe member was a berserker. He was about 27 or 28 years old. Su Ming knew him. He was Lu Di, the one who often played the son. This person did not like interacting with others in the tribe. There was an item made of bone the size of a fist hanging from his waist. There were a few small holes on it, and it looked very strange. Su Ming knew that item. It was called a sun. It was a musical instrument. Many people in the tribe did not know how to play it. Only this person seemed to have the talent. He could occasionally hear the sound of the sun in the tribe. Now, there was no longer any pain on his face. There was only determination and determination. Su Ming wept and walked forward. Everything he saw when he returned to the tribe turned his anger into killing intent. He wanted to fight for the tribe. "Elder, don't worry about me. My legs are gone, but I can still fight. I. As Su Ming got closer, he heard the tribe member who was being healed by the elder speaking in a hoarse voice. The elder's face was dejected. There was sadness on his face. He nodded his head gently, and, as if he had noticed something, he lifted his head and saw Su Ming walking towards him. The moment he saw Su Ming, the elder was stunned for a moment. Great surprise and shock appeared on his face. He understood his own seal and knew that it was not something a normal person could break so quickly. Yet Su Ming, who stood before him, made him feel as if he was hallucinating in his daze. This was the first time the elder showed such an expression before Su Ming. He could not believe that Su Ming could break his own seal and return to the tribe so quickly. At that moment, the elder was not the only one who saw Su Ming. Lei Chen also saw him. His eyes widened in disbelief. At the same time, Wu La, who was not too far away, also saw Su Ming standing before the elder. Chapter 88. Su Ming, the elder said instinctively. Yet when he saw the red in Su Ming's eyes, the exhaustion on Su Ming's body, and the silent determination on his face, he could no longer speak, because he could also feel the terrible price behind Su Ming's determination. In his eyes, Su Ming was like an arrow that had left its bow. That arrow brought with it a shocking sharpness. No one could stop it if it was not stained with blood. "Elder, I'm back," Su Ming said softly, just like how he usually did when he returned from a trip. The elder looked at Su Ming. There was relief in his eyes, reluctance to part, uncertainty, and a complicated look that Su Ming could not recognize. "You want to fight for the tribe?" the elder asked softly after a long while. Su Ming nodded his head silently. "Even if you die, you're willing?" The elder was silent for a moment before he spoke again. "Everyone will die one day. If I die in the battle to protect my home, then I will have no regrets." Su Ming's calm words voiced his thoughts. "All right, Su Ming, I won't stop you. Since this is your choice, then I'll give you the chance to fight for the tribe." The elder closed his eyes as if he was hesitating. After a while, he opened them abruptly and a determined look appeared on his face. He knew that he could no longer stop Su Ming, or else he did not know what other crazy things this child would do. When the elder saw Su Ming's tragic state, his heart ached for him, but he was also relieved. It was at this point that the assembled tribe members suddenly went silent. Their gazes came to rest on a group of people who had just entered the tribe. The tribe leader walked in front. Behind him were the head of the guards, Shan Hen, Bei Ling, and the other powerful berserkers at the 6th and 7th level of the blood solidification realm. They walked back with exhaustion and blood on their bodies. When they left, there were clearly more of them, but now there were fewer of them. Many of them had wounds on their bodies, especially Bei Ling. His face was pale, and there was a large amount of blood on his chest. Each of them held a human head that was no longer bleeding in their hands. Their return caused the tribe members to cheer excitedly. They spread out, allowing these people to walk towards the elder. Bei Ling saw Su Ming, but at that moment, he was no longer as aloof as before. Instead, he remained silent and followed behind his father. It was as if his jealousy was nothing compared to the survival of his tribe. If the tribe was gone, if the clansmen died, what was there to be jealous of? "Elder, we've already split up the people from Black Mountain Tribe to search for them, and killed them all. Now it should be safe outside. We can move." The group of people walked in front of the elder. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe tossed the two heads in his hands to the side and spoke in a low voice. His words were filled with the stench of blood. The people behind him also tossed the heads away. Their silence was filled with killing intent. Su Ming stood beside the elder and looked at the tribe leader and the others quietly. He saw the fatigue on their bodies and the sorrow hidden under the bloodlust and slaughter. It was not difficult for him to imagine that when the elder came back and the tribe members were preparing to move, they must have been ambushed by Black Mountain Tribe for the first time. That battle was devastating, causing the tribe members to be unable to move. Only after the first battle was over did the elder order them to clear out the remaining people from Black Mountain Tribe. Only then could they move safely. After all, most of the tribe members were normal people. There were many women and children among them. They had to be protected. They were the future and hope of the tribe. The elder nodded and swept his gaze across all the tribe members. At that moment, all the members of the tribe, be it men or women, the elderly or the young, were looking at him. Their gazes were filled with reliance and hope. Tribe members, the elder spoke softly. His words traveled through the area and fell into the ears of all the tribe members. We don't want to leave our homes. We don't want to leave this land that we've lived in for generations. We don't want to rely on Windstream Tribe, but for the continuation of Dark Mountain Tribe, we must do this. We want to live. We will live. We will tell our descendants and tell ourselves that one day we can still return to this place. We can still create our own home. On that day, we will return all the humiliation we suffered to Black Mountain Tribe. I have the confidence, but do you have the confidence? The elder shouted loudly. All the tribe members let out muffled roars in the midst of their sorrow. That roar shook the sky. Perhaps there were not many people in Dark Mountain Tribe, but that roar was the strongest roar of all of them. One day, Dark Mountain Tribe will return. Now let's move. The elder closed his eyes. He did not want anyone to not see the sorrow in his eyes. He swung his arm, and immediately, all the members of Dark Mountain Tribe, who had gathered together, supported each other. Under the protection of the berserkers, they slowly moved away from the land that they had lived in for generations. They left the land that they had lived in for generations and moved towards the unknown. The long line of people slowly left the abandoned tribe. Behind them, there was still faint black smoke rising from Dark Mountain Tribe. The ground was filled with ruins, and it gave off a desolate and sorrowful air. Sobs came from the crowd. They belonged to the lost Sioux who had yet to grow up, the women who were afraid, and all the members of Dark Mountain Tribe. The men in the tribe protected their families and carried the confused children. As tears fell from their eyes, they quietly moved forward. Some of the older lost Sioux also held the hands of their families in fear. They cried and turned their heads back to look. They looked at the familiar scene of the past, as if they wanted to turn this scene into something that would last forever and bury it deep within their memories. They were afraid that they would forget, afraid that they would never remember the way home. Every single one of them could not help but turn their heads back to look at the tribe they had left, at the home of the past. There was an old man in the crowd. His name was Nan Song. His expression was calm, as if he had seen through the passage of time. At that moment, he carried a simple bag on his back and stood quietly in the crowd. He did not stand out at all. It was noon, and the sunlight was not strong. The snow on the ground shone with a silver light that pierced the eyes. Yet no matter how bright the light was, it could not stop the members of the tribe from turning their heads back and feeling the sadness of parting. Their home was getting further and further away. The outline of the tribe gradually became indistinct. They could only see faint black smoke rising into the sky and the ruins of the tribe. Yet the beauty of the tribe had been carved into the hearts of all the members of the tribe. They would never forget it. They would not be willing to forget it. Su Ming turned around. Everything about the tribe had also been branded into his memories. His childhood, his happiness, and his growth were all there. He was familiar with every single corner of that place, and he could not forget every single piece of land. Everything about that place was imprinted in his mind, and it would exist for his entire life. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would want to leave their home. No one would want to leave their familiar home. No one would want to go to the unfamiliar Windstream and become a subordinate. Yet this was the only way. It was the only way for Dark Mountain Tribe not to be destroyed and for them to continue growing. This path was very, very long. The journey would be bumpy, but they had to continue walking down this path. The danger had not ended. On the contrary, the real danger had just begun. Previously, Dark Mountain Tribe had relied on the tribe to fend off the first wave of attacks from Black Mountain Tribe. Yet now, during the process of migration, the crowd was pulled into long lines. Most of them were normal members of the tribe. They had no way of fighting back against the berserkers. This migration was bound to not be peaceful. Once Dark Mountain Tribe fell, what awaited them would be the deaths of all their berserkers. All the men would be slaughtered, including the child lost Sioux. All the men would die. The only ones who would survive would be the women of Dark Mountain Tribe. They would be herded into Black Mountain Tribe and turned into objects that were like property. Their only purpose was to carry on the family line for the people of Black Mountain Tribe, to make Black Mountain Tribe stronger, and to sacrifice the rest of their lives in humiliation. It was impossible for the migration of hundreds of people to be quick, especially when there were a large number of lassus and women besides the men. In the cold winter, their cries gradually lessened. Silence replaced everything else. They did not know where their future lay. Perhaps Windstream was their only hope, but no one knew whether they could make it to Windstream Tribe alive. How many people would die in the process? How many of them would never see their family again? They did not know. There were quite a number of young people in the crowd. They did not possess berserker bodies and rarely contributed to the tribe. Most of them just liked playing around. However, since there were berserkers who had died in battle in their families before, as long as their actions were not too out of line, no one paid any attention to them. At that moment, the dozen or so young people looked around in the crowd with fear and dread. They wished that they could go to Windstream right away. The berserkers of Dark Mountain Tribe surrounded the long line of people. They looked tired but determined as they protected the tribe quietly. Occasionally, they would go up to help the weaker elderly. Right at the front of the line was the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe. He had a determined look on his face as he walked cautiously. There were also a few berserkers following behind him. All of them were on high alert. The two sides and the back were all the same. The elder walked at the very back. He held the white bone staff in his hands and walked solemnly, paying attention to his surroundings at all times. Bei Ling held Chun Xian's hand and walked quietly on the right side of the line. His face was pale and the blood on his chest had increased, but he did not care. Lei Chun, Wu La, and the other berserkers in the tribe followed closely behind them, always on high alert. The head of the guards and Shan Hen followed quietly on the left and right sides of the line. They had great responsibilities. The head of the guard's right hand was still holding onto his bow. If there was even the slightest movement, he would immediately draw his bow and shoot. Behind him, there was an old man in the crowd. He looked at the head of the guards with a calm gaze. Su Ming knew that old man. It was Nan's Song from the herb storage. Shan Hen's face was as cold as ever. No one knew what he was thinking. No one noticed the complicated look that flashed briefly in his narrowed eyes. Su Ming followed the migrating people from the tribe and listened to their cries. Their cries gradually turned into silence, and his heart clenched in pain. He looked at the familiar faces and saw their fear, and he clenched his fists. Protect the tribe. Fight for the tribe. Su Ming mumbled. He was on the right side of the crowd. Not too far ahead of him was Shan Hen. He did not choose this position. It was given to him by the elder when the tribe was migrating. In Su Ming's arms was a little girl of about 5 or 6 years old. The girl's name was Tong Tong. She was already asleep, but there were tears on her eyelashes. Her father died in battle. Her mother also died last night. She was the only one left. Ma, Pa, Pai Pai. The little girl's body trembled in her sleep as if she was in a nightmare. As tears fell from her eyes, she clutched tightly onto Su Ming's clothes. Su Ming knew that Pai Pai was the little girl's pet. It was very cute and was often carried in her arms. Be good, Tong Tong. Su Ming patted her back gently. Sorrow appeared in his eyes. He felt as if he had grown up in an instant. Chapter 89. The northern wind moaned and lifted the snow on the ground in the forest. The snow swayed in the wind as if it had no roots and did not know where it should go. It was as if the people under the snow were slowly leaving the tribe they had lived in for generations as they walked quietly into the forest. Gradually, no one spoke. Even the cries of the children, lassus, quickly stopped. They were either comforted by the whispers of their loved ones or gritted their teeth, forcefully turning their sorrow into determination and hatred. Most of the hundreds of people were normal tribe members. There were also the old, the weak, the sick, and the crippled. They could not walk quickly. The cold wind chilled their bones, and the snow on the ground was thick, causing their speed to become even slower. The berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe surrounded the area were filled with sadness and vigilance. They did not dare let down their guard. because a battle to the death could break out at any moment. Once they died, their tribe members would no longer have any protection, and they would be weak. Su Ming held the little girl in his arms. She held onto his clothes. She seemed to be very cold in the freezing wind, but what was even colder was her dream. However, perhaps it was because of the warmth coming from Su Ming's embrace that the child slowly calmed down. Gradually, she seemed to have found peace in her dream. However, tears would still occasionally fall from the corners of her eyes. As he held the child gently in his arms, Su Ming stepped on the snow on the ground and walked forward. He continuously looked around him, and when he saw the familiar faces of his tribe members by his side, he saw grief, saw the reluctance to part with them, and also saw determination and determination. Su Ming gritted his teeth. Hatred appeared in his eyes as he walked forward quietly. Sometimes he would go up and support the old and weak to help their trembling bodies move faster on the snow. Based on the speed at which our tribe members travel day and night, we'll need at least 3 days to reach Windstream Tribe. 3 days. I wonder how many of us will be able to survive once we get there. Su Ming's heart was bleeding. He was afraid. He was not afraid of his own danger, but of how many of those familiar faces he would never see again 3 days later. Su Ming knew that if there was a method, the elder would use it to let the tribe members quickly reach Windstream Tribe. The dart python may be fast, but it could not bring too many people with it at once. The normal tribe members could not handle the burden of flying in the sky. They needed several powerful berserkers like the head of the guards to protect them. But now, in the tribe, once a few experts left, the remaining people would find it hard to survive. "Ma!" In Su Ming's silence, the little girl in his arms mumbled in her dreams. She wrapped her arms tightly around Su Ming's neck, as if once she let go, she would lose her peace. "I should have come back." Su Ming patted the back of the child in his arms. Time trickled by. When it was almost dusk, the migrating people from Dark Mountain Tribe had already left their homes far behind. They gritted their teeth and continued moving forward in the depths of the forest in the cold. Suddenly, a piercing whistle that shook the heavens came from behind the crowd. That whistle was piercing to the ears. As it rose into the air, roars filled with excitement rose into the air. At the same time, figures charged towards them from the forest in the distance. In an instant, almost everyone in Dark Mountain Tribe was shocked. A chilling glare appeared in the elder's eyes. The berserkers beside him, the head of the guards, and the others all had killing intent appear on their faces. The tribe members trembled. They were surrounded by fear and the shadow of death. They were afraid and could not help but cry. The tribe seemed to be in chaos. "Everyone else, don't move. Continue protecting our tribe members as we move forward. Protect the people at the back of the tribe, and follow me to kill the enemies." The elder immediately gave an order. Su Ming let a normal tribe member carry the little girl in his arms. He was about to move when he heard the elder's words. He stopped in his tracks and gritted his teeth. Under the tribe leader's lead, he protected his tribe members and moved forward quickly. Behind them, the elder and the 7 berserkers from the tribe stood. They looked like a wall that blocked off the enemy. Whistling sounds echoed in the air. 20-something berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe rushed out from the forest behind them. The appearance of so many berserkers shocked Su Ming. After all, Dark Mountain Tribe only had 30-something berserkers. Yet now, Black Mountain Tribe had sent out 20-something berserkers in one attack. It was hard to believe. Most of the berserkers were at the 4th or 5th level of the blood solidification realm. However, 5 of them were at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm, and 3 of them were at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. There was no 8th level berserker, but there were 2 men in black robes standing right in front of these people. Their clothes were completely different from those of Black Mountain Tribe. They did not fit in with the tribe, but at the same time, they exuded a great amount of chi that made Su Ming's pupils shrink. The power of their chi surpassed that of the head of the guards, Shan Hen, and the tribe leader. Their level of cultivation and the blood covering their bodies showed that they were berserkers in the later stage of the blood solidification realm who were around the 10th level. Yet Su Ming could see that the eyes of the 2 men in black robes were dull and lifeless. They were clearly different from normal people, but their movements were nimble. Under their lead, the 20-something berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe charged towards the elder and the others with ferocious expressions, excitement, and a thirst for blood. Strange roars came from their mouths. When the normal tribe members heard those roars, they trembled in fear. "Let's go." The elder turned his head around and spoke in a low voice. He turned around and took a step towards the incoming berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. With a wave of his arm, black wind appeared out of thin air and swept in all directions, causing a large amount of snow to be lifted in the air. The wind charged towards the 20-something berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. The two men in black robes in the later stage of the blood solidification realm had a clear goal. They did not look at anyone else. Instead, as the blood veins on their bodies burst forth and shone with a piercing blood-red light, they charged into the black wind. Banging sounds reverberated in the air as they charged towards the elder. As the black wind swept past the remaining berserkers, 7 or 8 of them coughed out blood. Their bodies trembled and collapsed, exploding into a large amount of flesh and blood. The stench of blood instantly filled the air. The slaughter had begun. Besides the elder, there were only 7 other berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe who were guarding the back. Determination appeared on their faces, and they showed no signs of retreating. Behind them were their tribe members, their family. They could not retreat. They could not retreat. With sorrow and determination, the 7 people roared towards the sky and rushed towards the 12-something berserkers. They wanted to hold these people back at all costs, so that they could buy time for their tribe members behind them. Their levels of cultivation were not high. The strongest among them was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. The rest were around the 5th level. Yet at that moment, there was an indescribable presence around them. That presence was that of protecting their home. That presence was that of protecting their tribe members. That presence was something that could not be extinguished even in death. Even if their bodies were torn to shreds, they would not allow their enemies to take a single step forward. This was a human wall built with their flesh and blood. This was a ravine drawn with their lives. This was a madness that erupted from their souls. This was their choice. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He was not the only one. Most of the berserkers around him had gone mad. Even some of the normal tribe members were roaring. They wanted to fight. "Don't look. Your mission is to protect our tribe members when they migrate. We go." Just as Su Ming and the others were about to lose control and rush back to fight, a resolute look appeared in the tribe leader's eyes. Yet deep within that resolute look was sorrow. He was the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe. His mission was to ensure that more people in Dark Mountain Tribe could survive and allow Dark Mountain Tribe to continue existing. Su Ming clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot. He had no choice but to suppress his killing intent. He looked at the 7 tribe members who were hundreds of feet behind him. The dozens of berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe were closing in on them like a flood. As the rumbling sounds echoed in the air, Su Ming saw one of his tribe members coughing out blood. His right arm exploded. He staggered a few steps back, but he managed to stop himself. His legs had already been destroyed, but he still looked ferocious. As he roared, he rammed his head against the enemy's head that was filled with excitement and killing intent. He even opened his mouth, and as the berserker from Black Mountain Tribe let out a shrill scream of pain, he bit down on a man's neck and tore off a large piece of flesh. The face of the man from Black Mountain Tribe was filled with terror. His neck was a bloody mess. As he screamed in pain, he punched the chest of the berserker from Dark Mountain Tribe, causing the berserker to cough out blood, but he swallowed the blood and flesh in his mouth with a ferocious expression. That cruel expression and that insane action made the heart of the man from Black Mountain Tribe tremble. At that moment, the man from Dark Mountain Tribe who swallowed the flesh turned his head around and looked at the crowd leaving into the distance. He seemed to have also seen Su Ming looking at him from within the crowd. A gentle smile appeared on his lips. He was a man in his 30s, and in his eyes, Su Ming was just a child. That smile was like the kindness of an elder. It was completely different from the previous cruel smile. Once he smiled, the man turned his head around, and the moment he closed his eyes, The blood veins on his body exploded. It affected his entire body, causing his body to explode. The violent sound turned into a sound that shook the sky. The moment his body exploded, the eyes of the man from Black Mountain Tribe, who was the closest to him, filled with endless terror. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. That was the explosion of his blood veins. That was the last sound he made in his life. That sound told all the people from Black Mountain Tribe who were chasing after him that if they wanted to destroy Dark Mountain Tribe, they would have to pay an unimaginable price. The man from Black Mountain Tribe coughed out blood as his arms exploded. He retreated with great difficulty, but he had lost all will to fight. His heart was trembling. He was afraid. Chapter 90. The other people from Black Mountain Tribe were also terrified. This sort of self-destruction had happened 3 times in a short period of time. The price for these 3 explosions was the loss of 7 people from Black Mountain Tribe. The battle continued cruelly. Tears fell from Su Ming's eyes. He bit down on his lips and averted his gaze. He quickly ran forward with the rest of his tribe members. He knew that the tribe members behind him were using their lives to buy time. They were using their flesh and blood to buy time. What he needed to do was not to let their blood flow in vain. He had to protect the normal tribe members within this limited amount of time so that they could go further. The battle on the Elder's side was equally intense. The 2 men in the later stage of the blood solidification realm did not seem to know pain. Their faces were expressionless, and there were many injuries on their bodies. Yet they continued to hold onto the Elder. However, the Elder's strength was something that no one had expected, much less Su Ming. The Elder let out a cold harumph, and numerous ripples appeared around him. The ripples spread outwards, and the 2 men in the later stage of the blood solidification realm immediately trembled. The Elder took a step forward, and with his speed, he arrived before one of them in the span of a breath. He tapped the man's head, and with a bang, the man's head exploded. The moment his body fell to the ground, the Elder threw a punch towards the other man. The man's body also trembled and exploded. However, at the instant the 2 men died, a large amount of black fog immediately seeped out of their corpses. The black fog instantly gathered together and turned into a blurry figure that pounced towards the Elder, who was about to retreat. By 2, the Elder's expression froze. He knew that the black fog before him was not Bai Tu's real body, but a manifestation of his fallen berserker art. Yet now that the art had appeared, it meant that Bai Tu was not too far away from them. Or perhaps he was rushing towards them. Yet at that moment, piercing howls came from the front of the crowd once again. The sudden sound immediately made the tribe leader, the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe, and the tribe members' expressions change. At that moment, a piercing sound came from the forest to the left and right of the crowd. A violent gust of wind moaned, as if there were a large number of enemies from Black Mountain Tribe in the area. If that was all there was to it, it would have been fine. They could have left some berserkers behind and used their deaths in exchange for the tribe to continue migrating. However, the moment the excited and bloodthirsty roars came from the 3 directions, the ground trembled. About 100 feet in front of the tribe leader, the ground before the tribe caved in. Immediately after, a fence that was thousands of feet long and several dozens of feet thick shot out from the ground like a giant door. It was made of thick logs that were tied together and stood straight in front of the tribe, blocking off the path the tribe could take. There were 3 men from Black Mountain Tribe standing on top of the huge wooden fence. The one in the lead was nearly 10 feet tall and held a huge bow that was almost as long as his body. There was a cruel smile on his face as he stared at the crowd. At the same time, on the left and right sides of the tribe, as the ground trembled, another 2 rows of wooden fences shot up from the ground. They were thousands of feet long, and they trapped Dark Mountain Tribe in this place. There were also a few people standing on the wooden fences on both sides of the fence. They stared coldly down below with a hint of mockery in their eyes. This was a trap that had been set up a long time ago. The expressions of the people from Dark Mountain Tribe changed drastically. The tribe leader's face was pale, but his eyes were filled with killing intent and fighting spirit. The other berserkers were the same. How did they know our exact route? How did they set up a trap here beforehand? This was the question that appeared in the hearts of all the Dark Mountain Tribe members. Who is it? Who is the traitor of Dark Mountain Tribe? Su Ming trembled. In his mind, the elder had once mentioned that there was a traitor in the tribe. At the same time, when the elder, who was fighting against the black mist formed by Baitu's fallen berserker art, saw this scene, his face was filled with sorrow and anger. He only suspected that there was a traitor and had tried everything he could to find him, but the traitor had hidden himself too well and did not leave behind any clues. He even gave people the impression that there was no traitor at all. Yet now, the elder was certain of it. Yet even until now, he still could not figure out who the traitor was, and for what reason. At that moment of crisis, when the members of Dark Mountain Tribe were filled with fear and panic, and the faces of the normal tribe members were pale, as if they had no strength to fight back, whooshing sounds reverberated in the air on the three fences. More berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe appeared. There seemed to be about 50 of them. The elder lifted his right hand and pointed towards the tribe in the distance. The moment he pointed, the sky above the people from Dark Mountain Tribe who were trapped by the three fences suddenly changed. The sky and earth trembled, and a black light shot into the sky. As it shone, it gathered together and turned into a shocking statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe that was about 100 feet tall. It was a ferocious statue that was half human and half beast. It was filled with a barbaric and primitive presence. It held a long dragon in one hand and a long spear in the other. There was madness and bloodlust in its eyes. The moment it appeared, even the sky darkened, as if it was being suppressed by its might. However, the statue of the god of berserkers was not completely clear. It was a little blurry, as if it was rapidly materializing from thin air. Black light shone from its body and enveloped the area beneath it, protecting the gathered members of Dark Mountain Tribe. The berserkers are outside, and the tribe members are inside. We will fight to the death. At that moment, the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe let out a loud roar. He leapt up and charged towards the giant wooden fence in front of him. He knew that if he wanted to leave this place, he had to break through the fence. Retreating was impossible. Kill them. All the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe rushed out and charged towards their enemies from Black Mountain Tribe. The head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe leapt up with his bow in hand. He pulled the bowstring and fired an arrow. With a loud bang, the arrow flew towards the fence on the left. The tribe leader, who was in front, and two tribe members followed behind him. With determination, they too charged forward. Bei Ling, Wu La, Lei Chun, and all the other berserkers became frenzied and began fighting to the death. Shan Hen was silent. After a moment of hesitation, he also leapt up. Su Ming's heart was filled with killing intent. Just as he was about to move, he heard sobs coming from behind him. It was the little girl he had been hugging waking up. She was looking at him with tears streaming down her face. Su Ming did not turn his head back. He leapt up and charged towards the fence before him. From the fence, dozens of men from Black Mountain Tribe pounced on Su Ming and the other berserkers with strange cries. In an instant, they were engaged in a battle to the death with Su Ming and the other berserkers beside him. It was dusk. The sun in the sky was dim. The outline of the moon could be seen. It was clear that it was going to be night soon. Su Ming's blood was boiling. His heart was burning. His anger was roaring. His eyes were bloodshot. He had broken through the seal in Windstream and rushed back to the tribe like a madman. He wanted to live and die with the tribe. Now was the time for him to live and die with them. I will live as a member of Dark Mountain Tribe and die as a spirit of Dark Mountain Tribe. Su Ming did not hold back. All 243 blood veins in his body burst forth, revealing his power as a 7th-level berserker of the blood solidification realm. However, no one paid any attention to a teenager in the chaos of battle. Among the dozens of berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe before him, only one of them was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. The others were all between the 5th and 6th levels. The man who was originally at the 7th level had a ferocious look on his face as he led his men to kill them. In his eyes, the 7 or 8 berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe who were fighting back were nothing to him. As the vice chief of the hunters from Black Mountain tribe, killing these people was a piece of cake for him. Yet the moment he got closer, his pupils shrank abruptly and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He could clearly feel that among the 7 or 8 berserkers who were charging towards him was a skinny and inconspicuous teenager. He could feel the power of chi that made his heart tremble. Who is he? How can he have such chi at such a young age? The man did not even have time to think before Su Ming closed in on him. His first target was this person. All of this happened in an instant. Both sides clashed against each other. The sounds of battle rose into the sky, and shrill cries of pain reverberated in the air. Su Ming threw a punch, and the moment he did so, all 243 blood veins on his body gathered into one. As he threw his punch forward, it crashed into the man at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm from Black Mountain tribe. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. However, in this intense battlefield, all of these sounds were insignificant. As they fought to the death, the tribe members who were protected by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers trembled. Their faces were pale, but there was determination and fearlessness on their faces. They were afraid, but there was no point in being afraid. Their eyes were filled with hatred that was carved into their bones, along with a rage that seemed to want to burn the sky and earth. Silence. Everyone was silent. The little girl who had just woken up was no longer crying. Instead, she looked at Su Ming's back and watched him fight for the tribe. Su Ming threw a punch, and the man also threw a punch at him with a roar. As the sound of the punch reverberated in the air, blood trickled down the corner of the man's mouth. Shock appeared on his face. His arm felt as if it was about to shatter. As the force of the punch swept towards him, he could not help but take a few steps back. Yet his retreat made Su Ming roar. He ignored the pain and charged forward at a shocking speed. He closed in on the man in an instant and punched, and punched. In the blink of an eye, Su Ming threw out 8 punches. Each punch landed on the man's body, causing him to continuously retreat. Shock appeared in his eyes, and a large amount of blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. The man did not expect that he would run into such a powerful berserker, a crazy berserker. Dying. Su Ming closed in once again, but this time he did not use his fist. Instead, once he closed in, he rammed his head against the man's head. As the man let out a shrill scream of pain, his body was sent flying backwards, crashing into the row of giant wooden bars. A loud bang shot up, and the man coughed up blood. He was completely dumbfounded by Su Ming's speed. In fact, he did not even have the time to fight back. In his eyes, Su Ming was too fast. Chapter 91. Who is he? There's no one in Dark Mountain Tribe who has such power at such a young age. The man coughed out blood. There was shock on his face. His head was ringing, and his heart was roaring. But Su Ming was too fast. Almost the moment the man crashed into the wooden fence, Su Ming closed in once again. With madness and bloodlust, he hurled his fist forward. At the same time, he bit the tip of his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood. The moment the blood appeared, it immediately turned into blood mist. It was the dark blood dust art. The moment the art was cast, it charged towards the man. Under the man's disbelieving expression, Su Ming's right hand pierced through the blood mist at the fastest speed possible and crashed into the man's chest. With a bang, the wooden fence trembled. The man's eyes widened and lost their color. A large amount of blood flowed out from the corners of his mouth. His chest had been pierced through by Su Ming's fist. Kill him. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He did not stop even after killing one person. He turned around and charged towards the other berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. His battle with the man may have been quick, but it was all seen by the other berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe nearby. They could not believe their eyes as they watched their vice chief of the hunters being killed. They could not even see Su Ming's body. They could only see an afterimage flashing by. They were not the only ones. The other berserkers beside Su Ming were also shocked. They knew Su Ming. They knew him. In their memories, Su Ming was just a normal member of their tribe. They did not have the time to think about why Su Ming was also among the berserkers. Yet at that moment, Su Ming's explosive power shocked them, and at the same time, they became incredibly excited. As Su Ming let out a low growl, the 8 berserkers roared as well. Kill! Those who destroyed my garden will die. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. The chi in his body surged, and he hurled his fist forward. Those who kill my tribe will die. He hurled another punch. Those who kill my tribe will die. He hurled another punch. Su Ming's body flickered, and under the terror of the dozen-something men from Black Mountain tribe, he went berserk. He had never killed so many people before, and he had never hated them so much. At that moment, he was no longer a boy who was not even 17 years old, but a crazed murderer. As blood splattered everywhere, a booming sound traveled into Su Ming's ears. His heart was bleeding. That was the sound of one of his tribe members choosing to self-destruct when he was heavily injured. This was a war. This was a fight between the invaders and the protectors. This was the madness of the tribes. This was the grudge between Dark Mountain Tribe and Black Mountain Tribe that would not end until one of them died. The sudden addition of berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe caused the battle to become even more devastating. There were not many berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe, and their numbers were less than those from Black Mountain Tribe. Yet, at that moment, all the members of Dark Mountain Tribe were filled with determination. To protect their home, to protect their tribe, and to protect their tribe, they were willing to give up everything. So what if I die? Fighting for their homeland, fighting for their tribe, fighting for their children, fighting for their parents. This was the most brilliant moment in their lives. The crowd, protected by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers, started crying in the midst of the silence. The sounds of crying echoed in the air, and there were even voices calling out to them. They were crying for their sons who protected them, for their fathers who protected them, and for the berserkers who protected them. Ma, why is the sky blue? Is it because Pa is looking at us? Pa, why are the stars twinkling? Is it because Ma is looking at us? Someone was the first to whisper softly. Gradually, almost all the tribe members protected by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers started mumbling as they cried. Their voices blended together and gradually turned into a low sound wave. There was a gentleness to it, along with a hint of sorrow. Yet within that gentleness and sorrow, there was an indescribable emotion. These words were unique to Dark Mountain Tribe. Every single time a member of Dark Mountain Tribe died, the entire tribe would gather around the fire and look at their dead tribe member while chanting these sorrowful words. Lasu, don't be lonely in the sky. Don't be sad. Don't cry. Ma and Pa are watching you on ground. Every single year, every single day, we're watching you. I won't cry. I won't be sad. I won't be lonely. I know that you're there, watching me. I'm happy. The words gradually grew louder as they wept. The berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe, who were fearless of death, listened to their tribe members' voices and those familiar words. Sorrow appeared on their faces, and they let out stifled roars. They wanted to fight to the death. Su Ming trembled. Tears fell from his eyes. His body was covered in blood. Some of it was his, but most of it belonged to his enemies. He did not know fatigue. He did not know fear. All he knew was that he had to fight to the death. When he could no longer move, when he was heavily injured, then what he had to do was to self-destruct his blood veins. Ma, Pa, Pippi. Behind Su Ming, he could faintly hear the sobbing of the little girl who had just woken up. Su Ming's heart was in pain, and he was bleeding. It was as if there were an innumerable amount of sharp needles piercing through his heart, causing his speed to become faster and his fist to let out booming sounds. In the midst of this sorrow and slaughter, a sobbing melody echoed in the air. There was a desolate air to that song, a hint of sorrow and a hint of parting. Not too far away was a big tree. Dark Mountain Tribe's Lu Di was leaning against the tree. His legs were a mess, and his body was covered in blood. His face was pale, and there was a dull look in his eyes. With trembling hands, he held a sun made of bones by his lips and played the sad song. The sobbing sound was like a mother's cries. In the horrifying battlefield, it blended with the tribe members' murmurs and turned into a sorrow that made their hearts clench in pain. The sorrowful sobs floated in the air with the wind and melted into the snow on the ground. They were immersed in the blood of their tribe members. It made all the Dark Mountain tribe members who heard it weep endlessly. Su Ming trembled. This was not the first time he heard the Song of the Sun, but it had never made him cry like this before. It made him feel as if his heart had been pierced through and he had lost it, turning him into a heartless person. The only things that remained were the wounds all over his body and the endless sorrow he felt. Besides the sorrowful song, he also heard the occasional rumble of self-destruction. Each rumble meant that a berserker from his tribe had chosen to self-destruct his blood veins. "Don't leave me behind on the road to hell." Su Ming laughed brokenly. He threw a punch forward and blasted the body of an enemy from Dark Mountain tribe before him. He also coughed out a mouthful of blood. As he turned around, he saw his tribe member playing the song before he died under a big tree, not too far away. That clansman's eyes were dim, but they were bright. He played the Sun song, and the blood on his hands stained the bone sun. However, it could not cover the sound that belonged to him, the sorrow that belonged to him, and the farewell that belonged to him. This was the last song he would play for his tribe in his life. This time, he used his life to play this song. Su Ming closed his eyes. The moment he averted his gaze, his pupils suddenly shrank. He saw 3 men from Black Mountain tribe standing before Bei Ling in another direction. They were forcing Bei Ling back with ferocious and excited looks on their faces. Bei Ling's bow was broken. There were a lot of wounds on his body, especially on his chest. There was a large amount of blood flowing out of it. His face was pale. He held a bone blade in his hand, and with determination and sorrow, he fought madly. He could not retreat. Behind him were his tribe members. Even if they were enveloped by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers, he could not retreat either. The person closest to him was a woman. Tears fell from her eyes as she looked at Bei Ling, at his trembling body, and at his back that was like a mountain. That woman was Chun Xian. She seemed to be shouting something, as if she was telling Bei Ling something. Su Ming was too far away and could not hear her, but he could see the hidden gentleness in Chun Xian's eyes when she looked at Bei Ling. She liked Bei Ling. At that moment, she was even more certain of her own thoughts. She liked him. Tears fell from the corners of her eyes when she saw Bei Ling trembling and one of the 3 men from Black Mountain tribe closing in on him with a ferocious smile. The bone blade in his hand sliced towards Bei Ling's head like lightning. Chun Xian let out a shrill cry of sorrow. She rushed out. Bei Ling laughed brokenly. He was so tired that he could no longer withstand it. Since the previous night, he had been fighting to the death. He knew that he could no longer avoid it. Just as he was about to self-destruct, he saw Chun Xian hugging him. "Oh well, since you're here, then come with me." Just as Bei Ling was about to close his eyes and make his blood veins explode, the world suddenly roared. A voice that shook the area and made everyone, including those from Black Mountain tribe who were fighting, tremble reverberated in the air. A crimson long spear charged towards Bei Ling at an unbelievable speed. There was an incredibly strong, murderous aura coming from the long spear. With a hint of madness, it turned into a gigantic red eagle that everyone could see. In the blink of an eye, it flew past Bei Ling and pierced through the chest of the man from Black Mountain tribe who was about to swing his blade at him. With a bang, the man's body was pinned to the snow. At the same time, a wave of air exploded in all directions. The man's body exploded and turned into a pile of flesh and blood. The other 2 men from Black Mountain tribe trembled and could not help but take a few steps back. They coughed out blood. At the same time, a figure leaped forward like lightning and stood in front of Bei Ling, replacing everything in his eyes. The moment this scene and the back appeared, a huge storm stirred up in Bei Ling's heart. He was familiar with this scene. He had experienced this before in Windstream tribe. He had seen a person standing before him like this. Even though the 2 of them had different appearances and physiques at that moment, in Bei Ling's eyes, they overlapped with each other. Su Ming. Disbelief appeared on Bei Ling's face. He was stunned, and then he understood everything. Chapter 92. He understood now. The person who had used the same method to appear before him in Windstream tribe and had the ability to fight against Wu Sun was Su Ming. He understood now. When he returned to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings in Windstream City, exhausted that night, and saw the ball of blood at the center of his brows floating in his room, he had been surprised and guessing. That person was also Su Ming. Similarly, during that instant, he looked at Su Ming's back as he stood before him. In his daze, he seemed to have seen the person who had returned from the first stage of the test. The person who had been the center of attention was incredibly familiar to him at that moment, and he understood that it was also Su Ming. All these thoughts rumbled in Bei Ling's head like thunder. It was as if they had turned into a large amount of lightning that shot through his mind, causing him to tremble. He could not believe it. He could not believe that Su Ming had obtained such power at some unknown point in time. He could not believe that Su Ming had reached a level where he could silently look up to Su Ming. In his memories, Su Ming was the person he had always hated out of jealousy, the person he had looked down on from the bottom of his heart, the person who had always spoken to him coldly. Now, Bei Ling's heart was filled with complicated emotions. That complicated feeling made him forget that he was still in a battlefield. He forgot that he was fighting. He forgot everything. His mind was blank and lost. How could this be? Bei Ling mumbled. Chen Xian hugged him tightly by his side. Tears fell from her eyes. Su Ming was not in her eyes. There was only Bei Ling's pale face and the way he had refused to take even half a step back, even if he died. All of this might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, the moment Su Ming's spear landed on the ground and stirred up a huge wave of air, the moment the man who had lifted the blade collapsed, Su Ming took a step forward. He was so fast that he turned into an afterimage and charged towards the person who had been sent staggering backwards by the wave of air. That person was in his 50s and was only at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. He had only taken a few steps back when his vision blurred. His pupils shrank, and he was about to take a huge step back when a powerful sense of danger descended on his entire body. However, Su Ming was too fast. Before this person could retreat, he had already closed in on him with a loud whistle that sliced through the air. With a ferocious look on his face and an enraged, murderous look on his face, he did not use his fist, but his body to ram into the man's chest. Clear cracking sounds reverberated in the air. Blood trickled down the corners of the man's mouth, and his back exploded. His body could not withstand Su Ming's great power, and all his bones instantly shattered. His body was flung backwards, and he died before he even landed on the ground. The hatred in Su Ming's eyes did not diminish, but grew stronger. He hated all the people from Black Mountain Tribe. He turned around abruptly and glared at the last of the 3 berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe who wanted to kill Bei Ling not too far away. That person was built, but he was not tall. The ferocious smile and the excitement in his eyes when he was chasing after Bei Ling changed abruptly. His smile turned into shock, and his eyes were filled with fear. He watched as Su Ming killed one person with one thrust of the spear in a way that shocked him, and with one slam of his body, he killed another. The clean and efficient killing gave the man a feeling of cruelty and madness. His heart pounded against his chest. When Su Ming looked at him, he immediately screamed in fear and retreated without a care for anything else. He was afraid. To him, Su Ming was definitely at the level of a leader in Dark Mountain Tribe. This sort of person was not someone he could fight against. However, before the burly man could even take 3 steps back, a sharp whistling sound suddenly rang out. He saw an arrow coming from afar. The arrow seemed to be able to pierce through the void. It arrived in an instant and pierced through the burly man's neck, causing a stream of blood to spurt out. It landed on a tree at the side with a thud, causing the tree to tremble. The man clutched his neck as blood flowed out continuously. His eyes dimmed, and he fell to the ground. His corpse was trampled by the people from the 2 tribes who were fighting around him. The head of the guards in the distance quickly averted his tired gaze and continued fighting against his enemy, the leader of the 8th level of the blood solidification realm from Black Mountain Tribe. Su Ming walked towards Bei Ling and stopped before him. He grabbed blood scales that was stabbed into the snow and pulled it out. A glint appeared in his eyes. Just as he was about to search for the people from Black Mountain Tribe to continue killing, he heard Bei Ling's complicated and hesitant voice. "Thank you." That voice was mixed in between the sounds of the battle and the mournful song of the sun. It was as if Su Ming did not hear it. Once he pulled out the long spear, he walked forward. Yet he only took a few steps before he paused. "Let bygones be bygones. For Chenxian, you have to live well," Su Ming said, and took a step forward, charging towards the people fighting not too far away. Almost the moment Su Ming charged forward, a cold gaze fell on him from the fence in the distance. It was a man wearing a sackcloth. He looked to be in his 40s, and his body was incredibly strong. He looked like an iron tower. His body was covered in blood, but almost all of it belonged to the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe. The power of Qi in his body was strong. By the looks of it, he had reached the 8th level of the blood solidification realm. He was about the same level as Yi Wang, who had fought against Su Ming before. The moment he looked towards Su Ming, he lifted his right hand. There was a long bone blade in his hand. With a swing of the blade, he cut off the head of a Dark Mountain Tribe member who was fighting against him. That tribe member did not even have the time to make his blood veins explode before he was decapitated. The man grabbed his head and threw it towards Su Ming, who was looking at him. The head fell by Su Ming's feet with hot blood on it. The blood dyed the snow red, causing the snow to quickly melt and turn into a puddle of blood. Su Ming stopped in his tracks and lifted his head to look at the man with his bloodshot eyes. Their gazes met in the middle of the battlefield. Su Ming saw the cruelty and callousness in the man's eyes, and the man also saw the madness and killing intent in Su Ming's eyes. The moment their gazes met, the man moved. With one leap, he charged toward Su Ming. Su Ming stomped on the ground with his right foot and leapt up as well, charging towards the man. If the man could wear sackcloth instead of bee skins, it was clear that he had a high position in Black Mountain Tribe. If he could kill someone like this, it would definitely be a huge blow to the morale of Black Mountain Tribe. The moment the man moved, due to his status, he immediately attracted the attention of many people from Black Mountain Tribe who were fighting on the battlefield. Their morale seemed to have been stirred up, and they let out strange cries as they charged forward. The two of them were getting closer to each other. In an instant, they clashed together, and a fierce battle to the death began. Yet at that moment, right in front of the crowd from Dark Mountain Tribe, the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe coughed out blood. His face was pale as he retreated. Before him, most of the people from Black Mountain Tribe had died, but a man dressed in black who was the same as the two people who had fought against the elders suddenly appeared. With his shocking power, he injured the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe and forced him to retreat. The man in black had a dull look in his eyes, but there was a bloodthirsty look in them. He took a huge step forward and chased after the retreating tribe leader with the two berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. By the looks of it, he wanted to kill the injured tribe leader in one go. The berserkers who had been fighting alongside the tribe leader had already died from the explosion of their blood veins. At that moment, he was the only one standing before the crowd. At that critical moment, as if the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe could no longer avoid this life and death crisis, a person rushed out from the crowd in the midst of the anger and sorrow of the people behind him. That person was an old man, and he was Dark Mountain Tribe's Nan Song. The moment he walked out, he let out a soft sigh and stomped the ground with his right foot. There was not a loud sound, but the man in black who was chasing after the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe shuddered, as if he had staggered. Shock appeared on his face. Nan Song walked out and landed in front of the man. He threw a punch with his skinny right arm and forced the man to stop in his tracks. The two of them fought against each other before the tribe leader. However, there were two berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe by the side of the man in black robes. One of them was the head of the guards from Black Mountain Tribe who held the giant bow. That person may have been shocked by Nan Song's arrival, but with the man in black robes around, he gritted his teeth and chased after the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe. His eyes were filled with cruelty and excitement. He could already imagine that if he killed the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe and took his head, he would be rewarded greatly in the tribe. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe laughed brokenly. He was still dozens of feet away from the crowd, protected by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers, but he knew that he could not go back. Yet there was no regret in his eyes. There was only reluctance. He did not regret dying in battle. As the tribe leader, dying in battle for the tribe was an honor. But he could not leave the tribe so soon. He had not even brought his tribe to a safe place yet. Su Ming saw the danger the tribe leader was in. Many other people saw it too. Yet no one could rush to the tribe leader's side because of the ferocious looks from Black Mountain Tribe. After all, it concerned the tribe leader's life and death. Black Mountain Tribe was also fighting excitedly for the tribe leader, trapping every single berserker from Dark Mountain Tribe. Su Ming wanted to rush to the tribe leader's side, but the man wearing sackcloth from Black Mountain Tribe laughed coldly and stopped him, causing Su Ming to be unable to go. He did not even have the chance to throw his long spear. At that moment of crisis, when the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe could no longer avoid death, there were about a dozen young men standing right in front of the normal members of Dark Mountain Tribe who were protected by the light from the statue of the god of berserkers. These young men were all trembling. They were a group of people who were just waiting to die in the tribe. They did not have a berserker body, and neither did they have strong bodies. Most of the time when their tribe members worked, they lived a leisurely life because there were berserkers who had died in battle in their families. It made them feel that they had some sort of special right. No matter what they did, as long as they did not betray the tribe, they would continue living like this for the rest of their lives. They did not forget the glory their families once had, but they did not choose to inherit it. Instead, they chose to live under the protection of that glory and gave themselves an excuse to be lazy and domineering. Chapter 93. They were afraid of death, so afraid that they felt as if their hearts were about to shatter. That was why they did not dare to stand at the back of the tribe. They had wanted to stand in the middle, but the people in the middle were all lost Sioux children who had lost their families. Because of that, they could only stick close to the tribe leader and stand in front of the tribe because they believed that it was safe there. They believed that the tribe leader was there to protect them. Yet now, they saw that the tribe leader was in danger. However, as long as they did not walk out of the light of the statue, they would not be harmed for the time being. In that moment of danger, there was one among the dozen or so young men who stood at the front. His face was pale and his body trembled. It was as if his frail body was about to be blasted apart by fear. But for the first time ever, madness appeared in his eyes, and they were bloodshot. I've been muddle-headed for the past half of my life, eating and waiting for death. I haven't contributed a single bit to the tribe, and I've even wasted so much food. I know that many of the tribe members look down on me, and I know that even those lost Sioux think that I'm trash. I'm indeed trash. I don't have a berserker body. I'm lazy. I don't have a strong body. I'm useless. The only thing I have is the glory that my father exchanged his life for when he hunted wild beasts for the tribe. Today, I'll tell all the tribe members that even though I'm trash, I'm still a member of the tribe. With bloodshot eyes, the young man roared and charged towards the tribe leader. He wanted to use his flesh and blood to build a wall of life for the tribe leader. With a bang, the young man's body intersected with the tribe leader as he retreated and stood in front of the tribe leader. Yet in an instant, his body was pierced by a sharp arrow that came whistling towards him. His entire body exploded, and he died on the spot. "Father, your lost Sioux is not trash." Before the young man died, he laughed brokenly. Almost the instant the young man charged out of the wall of death, his companions, the dozen or so young men, roared and rushed out madly. They wanted to use their lives to repay the tribe for raising them. They wanted to use their lives to once again welcome the glory that had been tainted by dust. We're trash, but we're still members of the tribe. The dozen or so young men roared and rushed out. With their frail bodies and their blood, they built a wall of flesh and blood for their tribe leader and their tribe members. The two men from Black Mountain Tribe did not expect that the normal members of Dark Mountain Tribe will be able to rush out at that moment. Yet their eyes were filled with disdain and disdain. To them, the normal members of the tribe were so frail that they could not even withstand a single blow. Amidst the booms, the dozen or so people were all badly mangled and torn to pieces. However, they still used their lives and their willpower to block even if they had to die. Some of them even used their bodies to cling onto the head of the guards from Black Mountain. Even though their bodies had been shattered, they gritted their teeth and held on tightly. Devastation. The degree of devastation in this battle had reached its peak. The willpower of the dozen or so young men had shaken the two men from Black Mountain Tribe. They did not expect that the normal members of Dark Mountain Tribe would have such madness and persistence that they managed to delay their pursuit for around 2 breaths. 2 breaths was a short amount of time. The price was the lives of the young men, but those 2 breaths allowed the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe to escape from a life and death crisis. In his sorrow, the tribe leader returned to the light of the statue of the god of berserkers. He felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife, but he knew that he could not die. It was not for himself, but for the tribe. He looked at the corpses that covered the ground before him. He looked at the group of people who had once made him feel helpless and even disgusted. He looked at the bloody mess on those familiar faces, and the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe, a man in his 40s who was built like an iron tower, cried. Behind him, more of his tribe members cried. The dozen or so young men had used their lives to tell everyone that they might be useless trash, but they were still members of the tribe. They could die for the tribe. Su Ming bit his lip and exchanged blows with the man before him again and again. The 243 blood veins in his body had already gathered together into one. As he continued growling, he began fighting against the man. His forte was speed, while the burly man's forte was strength, similar to Yu Wang's. This battle was extremely eye-catching, even in this battlefield. Lei Chun saw it, Wu La saw it, and many other clansmen saw it. The little girl in the crowd looked at Su Ming with tears in her eyes. She was afraid. At that moment, a shocking rumble came from afar. The black fog formed by the fallen berserker art of Black Mountain Tribe's elder by Tu, who was fighting against the elder, crumbled abruptly and turned into black mist that tumbled outwards. The elder brought with him an indescribable presence as he walked towards the tribe in the span of a breath. The elder was back. His speed was so quick that he seemed to have taken 3 steps in the air. The moment his first step landed, the elder was already standing beside Su Ming. The man in the sackcloth from Black Mountain Tribe was still in shock when the elder pointed at the center of his brows. The man trembled and coughed out blood as he retreated. A deep, bloody hole appeared at the center of his brows. His eyes dimmed, and he fell to the ground. He died just like that. The elder did not stop. He took his second step. With that step, he appeared right in front of the crowd, right beside the man in black robes who was fighting against Nansong. He swung his right hand with a ghastly expression, and the man's body immediately trembled violently before he crumbled. A presence that shook the sky and earth spread out from the elder's body. With every step he took, he would kill another person. His presence made all the people from Black Mountain Tribe around him fearful, and they all retreated. Excitement appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He was not the only one. All the people from Dark Mountain Tribe started roaring in excitement. The elder took his third step. That third step was towards the giant wooden fence blocking their way. With one step, the fence let out a loud bang and shattered into pieces. Just as it was about to scatter, the elder waved his arm, and the pieces shot past the people from Dark Mountain Tribe like arrows towards the retreating berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. At that moment, screams of pain reverberated through the air. The moment he took his third step, a sickly red flush appeared on the elder's face, but it quickly disappeared. He turned his head around and spoke calmly. "Don't stop. Go." As he spoke, many of the people from Black Mountain Tribe died, and none of them dared to stop him. Under the tribe leader's lead, the people from Dark Mountain Tribe quickly moved forward. Lu Di, who was leaning against the tree and on the brink of death, was also helped up and carried away. Very soon, silence returned to the battlefield. The only things that remained were the corpses and the stench of blood all over the ground. Su Ming was in the crowd, covered in blood. He walked quickly and quietly. The little girl beside him, who was being carried by a tribe member, was no longer crying. There was determination in her innocent eyes. She was still young. She did not understand many things, but on that night, she seemed to have grown up. Moonlight shone on the ground, as if it was illuminating the path ahead for the people from Dark Mountain Tribe who had lost their homes. They were no longer lost and no longer helpless. Tribe leader, elder, us old men should stay behind. Don't let our tribe members take care of us and affect the speed of our migration. As they moved, an old and coughing voice suddenly came from the crowd. It was a normal old man from the tribe. He was already very old and could no longer keep up with the tribe. In his mind, instead of letting other people support him and affect the tribe's speed, it was better for him to stay behind. Let the young people go. I'll stay as well. Honestly, we should have chosen to stay back in the tribe. Another old man stopped moving. Soon, almost all of the elders of the tribe walked out from the crowd after a moment of silence. There were about 40 of them, and they stubbornly chose to stay. Their remaining lives could not be of any help to the tribe, but they could not allow themselves to be a hindrance to the tribe's progress. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe, was momentarily stunned. He closed his eyes, but he soon opened them and bowed deeply towards the old men in the tribe. Let's go. We're tired. The old men smiled and waved at the tribe members. Their family members cried in the crowd, but they could not stop them. Some of the strong tribe members also chose to stay behind, but they were not allowed to do so. Elder, is there a way for us old people to use that explode our flesh and blood to hurt people like those lads? Tell us. One of the old people walked out from among the group of old people and looked at the elder with a smile on his face. The elder was silent for a moment before he walked forward and placed an item in the old man's hand. He sighed softly and patted the old man's shoulder. He knew that this was not the time to be weak. More of the tribe members needed to move quickly. He turned around abruptly. The rest of the tribe continued moving. As they cried silently and turned their heads back, the old men watched their tribe members leave into the distance. Kind smiles appeared on their faces, and they sat down while panting heavily. They talked about the past when they were young, and under the moonlight, they seemed to be talking about their past glory. Due to the absence of the old men, the speed at which the crowd moved became much faster. After a long while, when the sky brightened up, Dark Mountain Tribe, which was getting further and further behind the people of Dark Mountain Tribe, turned into ruins under the faint moonlight. It was as if there was not a single hint of life in the place. As time passed, it would turn into a wreckage. Gradually, some plants would grow, and slowly, this place would turn back into a part of the forest, causing all the beautiful memories that existed to be difficult to find. At that moment, wind blew past them, and it sounded like the moaning of a sun. It swept up the snow on the ground and swept it across the land. It also swept up a lot of the miscellaneous items that the tribe members had left behind before they left. As they moved on the ground, they let out rustling sounds and gave off a desolate air. Among the miscellaneous items were lassos toys, bee skins that the tribe members did not manage to take away in time, extinguished fires, some scattered medicinal herbs, and many pots, bowls, and broken bee skin tents. Besides the sound of the wind, the ruins of the tribe were silent. However, one of the collapsed bee skin tents moved at that moment, and a round, furry little beast poked its head out of the tent. That little beast was very cute. Its fur was originally white, but at that moment, it was gray. Fear appeared in its eyes, and it quickly ran out of the tent, shivering in the wind and snow. Whines came from its mouth, as if it was calling out to its master. Its name was Pippi, and it was the little girl's pet. However, its owner couldn't hear it. It stayed alone in the ruins of the tribe, but it didn't want to go too far away from the collapsed tent, because that was its home. As it hissed, the little beast slowly retreated as if it couldn't withstand the cold, and was about to return to its tent. However, just at this moment, footsteps came from outside, and more than 10 people walked in from the broken gate of the tribe. The person in the lead was a strong man, but he had a ghastly expression on his face. If Su Ming was there, he would be able to recognize that person. It was the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. Behind him was a similarly ghastly teenager. The teenager licked his lips and looked around with a cruel smile on his face. He was by Su. They sure are fast. Go after them. The elder should be here soon. This time, besides the women in Dark Mountain Tribe, don't leave a single one alive. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe said slowly and walked out of the ruins. Baisu averted his gaze from his surroundings and was just about to follow the tribe leader when a glint suddenly appeared in his eyes. He saw the trembling little beast that did not dare move. His lips curled into a smile, and he waved his right hand at the little beast. Immediately, the little beast shuddered and fell down with a dull look in its eyes. A green aura seeped out from its carcass. Baisu grabbed it in his hands and placed it at the center of his brows. After a moment, cruelty appeared in his eyes. "Your name is Pippi, huh? You miss your master a lot. I'll send her to reunite with you." Chapter 94. Night had long since fallen. There was a faint white light in the horizon. Faint moonlight shone on the snow in the forest, causing it to shine with a cold light. Crunching sounds could be heard as the migrating people from Dark Mountain Tribe hurried on their journey before dawn. It was quiet all around them. Besides the sound of people stepping on the snow, there was almost no other sound. The people from Dark Mountain Tribe were all silent. It did not matter whether it was the elderly, the women, or the lost Sus. All of them were silent as they migrated. It had been a few hours since the great battle. The devastation of that battle was deeply engraved in the minds of all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe. It was carved into their souls, and they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. Before they left, not including the elder, Dark Mountain Tribe had a total of 30-something berserkers. Now, after the great battle, there were only 14 left. The blood on these 14 people's bodies had dried up. There was sorrow on their faces, but there was also a murderous air around them. They quietly protected their tribe members as they moved forward. Dozens of them had died, but Black Mountain Tribe had paid an even greater price. This was related to their power, but more importantly, the invading Black Mountain Tribe did not have the determination that the people from Dark Mountain Tribe who were forced to leave their home. They did not have the courage to protect their tribe. The first time they self-destructed, they might have brought disdain to the invaders from Black Mountain Tribe, but the second, the third, the fourth made the people from Black Mountain Tribe feel fear that came from the bottom of their hearts. Dark Mountain Tribe was weak, but amidst that weakness, there was a powerful force. Su Ming walked quietly. Ever since the battle just now, he had not said a single word during the past few hours. It was as if he, who was originally very cheerful and possessed the impulsiveness of a teenager, had finally learned how to keep quiet instead of roaring at others. However, the price he had to pay for learning how to keep quiet was so great that it made his heart ache. Su Ming knew that from this day onwards, his innocence shattered and left his body. From this day onwards, his happiness melted and disappeared into his blood. From this day onwards, his tears were slowly replaced by silence. Time passed by, and soon it was daylight. The tribe members who had been walking for an entire night did not stop, even though they were tired. All of them gritted their teeth and supported each other as they migrated quickly, almost as if they were running. The day gradually passed by as they migrated. The people in the tribe could not withstand the fatigue. After resting for an hour, they continued on their journey. When the night of the second day arrived and the moonlight shone on the snow-covered ground of the forest once again, the people of Dark Mountain Tribe walked quickly in silence. Brother Su Ming. A timid and weak voice traveled into Su Ming's ears. He turned his head and saw a little girl being carried by a member of the tribe beside him. As he looked at the child's clear eyes, Su Ming forced a smile on his face. However, that smile looked incredibly terrifying when it was set off by the blood on his face. However, the girl did not feel afraid. Instead, she widened her eyes and looked at Su Ming. After a moment of hesitation, she lifted her slightly dirty hand and wiped off the dried blood on his face. As he felt the little girl's delicate hand caressing his face, warmth appeared in Su Ming's heart amidst the blood-dripping pain. Brother Su Ming, don't be afraid. Tong Tong isn't afraid either. The little girl pulled her hand back. There was some blood on her hand. She looked at Su Ming, and in her bright eyes, there was a determination that was rarely seen among children. Su Ming patted the little girl's head. He did not speak, but looked forward. The path before him was hidden in the forest. He could not see where the future lay. Lei Chen stood on the other side of the crowd. He still had his fists clenched. The blood on his back had already dried up. He ignored the pain. There was bloodthirst in his eyes, along with sorrow. He would never forget the battle the previous night. If it were not for an elder berserker in the tribe exploding his blood veins to save him before he died, his corpse would have been left behind in the battlefield. Before him was Wu La. The girl's face was pale, and there was great fatigue on her face. There was dried blood on her left arm, and she looked as if she could no longer lift it. There was a large bloody mess on her face, causing her beautiful face to no longer exist. Yet there was no sign of giving up in her eyes. There was still the stubbornness of a member of Dark Mountain Tribe. Behind them were Bei Ling and Chen Xian. They held hands as if they would never part from each other. They protected the crowd as they walked forward. The elder was still at the back of the group. His white hair and wrinkles made Su Ming's heart ache even more when he saw them. He could see the elder's fatigue. On the second night, the moon in the sky was not crescent. It was moving toward the full moon, but it was clear that it was not a full moon. Perhaps it would be tomorrow, or perhaps it would be the day after tomorrow. As the tribe moved forward, berserkers would occasionally rush towards them from all directions. There were not many of them. There were only 4 of them. These 4 people were scouts sent by the tribe. They risked their lives to report any changes in the area within a fixed amount of time. If they did not come back, then it meant that something had happened. Time passed by, and soon another 2 hours went by. The sky was dark. It was as if there was a terrifying gaze staring at the land, watching the people of Dark Mountain Tribe moving forward quickly. At that moment, only 3 of the 4 people who were supposed to return on time returned. There was no sign of the scout behind them. Su Ming felt goosebumps all over his body. A fierce look appeared in his eyes as he turned around and stopped moving. There were also others who noticed that something was wrong. A glint appeared in the elder's eyes, and he tightened his grip on the bone staff in his hands. Suddenly, a faint roar came from behind them. That sound traveled into the ears of all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe, making Su Ming's grief grow even stronger. He knew that it was the sound of his blood veins exploding. He knew that the enemies from Black Mountain Tribe had arrived once again. Don't stop. Hurry up and move. All berserkers, protect us. We'll retreat as we fight. The elder knocked the bone staff in his hands against the ground. He lifted his left hand and swung it towards the sky above the tribe. Immediately, the sky above the tribe distorted once again. The statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe appeared once again. It floated above the tribe and let out a protective light. It floated along with the movement of the people. With its existence, as long as it was not damaged, then the tribe members under its light would be safe. The moment the statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe appeared, the elder lifted his head abruptly. A grave expression that had never appeared on his face during this battle appeared on his face. There was a glint in his eyes as he stared at the dark sky. The dark sky suddenly changed. A ray of red light appeared out of nowhere. Once it fused with the black light, it looked as if it had turned purple. The red light spread out like blood, and in an instant, it covered half of the sky. A hoarse and gloomy voice reverberated through the world and spread in all directions. Mo sang. As the voice echoed in the air, a strong pressure descended from the sky. The moment the pressure landed on the ground, all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe could feel it clearly. Even the statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe trembled. Su Ming's heart raced against his chest. The strength of that pressure was something he had only felt from the elder of Windstream Tribe, Jingnan. That pressure belonged to those in the Transcendence Realm. This was a natural pressure that came from those in the Transcendence Realm against those in the Blood Solidification Realm. Under that pressure, the berserkers in the Blood Solidification Realm would lose control of their chi and circulate it. However, as that mighty pressure appeared, as the blood-red light spread out from the sky, and as the moon in the sky gradually turned into a blood moon, an indescribable feeling that no one else besides him had felt appeared in Su Ming's heart. That feeling was similar to the blood-red moon he saw during the burning of blood. There was even a feeling that was incredibly familiar to him. It was as if there was a giant wings of the moon hidden in the sky at that moment. This illusion that he found hard to believe caused Su Ming's heart to tremble. Soon after, he saw a person slowly walking out from the blood-red light in the sky. That person wore a black robe. His body was thin and his face was dark. He had his hands behind his back as he walked out and stood in the sky, looking down at the land. There's a picture of the wings of the moon at the center of his brows. That picture was incredibly realistic, as if it was alive. It shone with an enchanting red light. Baitu, the elder of Black Mountain Tribe, Baitu, Mo sang, "You don't have to wait for Jingnan and Wenyan. They can't even protect themselves. They don't have time to care about the survival of Dark Mountain Tribe." Baitu smiled darkly and looked at the elder standing behind the crowd. The elder was silent. He was indeed waiting for Jingnan, but Jingnan did not appear during the journey. He had a vague understanding that something must have happened to Winestream Tribe. Nan's song, "You were second only to Mo," sang in the past. You were a peerless genius, but when you ran to Dark Mountain Tribe, you were still a piece of trash. All these years, I've been thinking about the look on your father's face before he died. He begged me to let you live. It's a pity. I didn't want to grant him his wish, but you still escaped. Nan's song, "The Berserker Child of Black Mountain Tribe, we meet again." Baitu smiled, but that smile soon grew wider until he started laughing maniacally. Outside the crowd, the white-haired Nansong looked at Baitu in the sky. He was not angered by Baitu's words, but as if he had seen through everything in the world, he let out a soft sigh. "Compared to you, who poisoned the previous elder of Black Mountain Tribe, who chased after the son of the old elder of Black Mountain Tribe, who sacrificed most of the people in Black Mountain Tribe in exchange for the fallen berserker arts, I can't compare to you." Nansong remained calm, but the wrinkles on his face seemed to have increased. "The enmity between us in the past should be settled today." Mo sang, "Nansong, I'll give the two of you a chance. I'll give you a chance to fight against me together." Baitu laughed loudly and swung his right hand. Immediately, the sky and earth roared, and the endless blood-red light in the sky behind him instantly turned into a thick blood mist. As the mist tumbled about, it turned into a gigantic wings of the moon. When the wings of the moon spread its wings, it looked as if it covered the sky and the moon. "Nansong, leave Baitu to me. I'll hold him back. I'll leave the tribe to you." Mo Sang took a deep breath and swept his gaze across his tribe members. He looked at the silent tribe members, as if he wanted to find a traitor, but in the end, he only sighed. Every single one of his tribe members was covered in blood and were exhausted. How could he doubt these people who fought for the tribe? He saw the sorrow on the head of the guard's face and the deep wound on Shan Hen's neck. Perhaps there really isn't a traitor. Before the elder averted his gaze, he cast a deep look at Su Ming. His body rose abruptly, and a gigantic dark python appeared out of thin air. Together with him, they charged into the sky like shooting stars. Booming sounds reverberated in the sky and earth. As the elder got closer, Baitu laughed loudly. The sky was covered by the red mist and enveloped the two of them. They could not see what was going on inside, but the booming sounds shook the sky and earth. Chapter 95. Su Ming's heart raced against his chest as he watched the elder leave. He looked at the elder's gaze before he left, and there was something in his eyes that made him afraid. Wings of the moon. Wings of the moon. Fire berserker art. Su Ming looked at the wings of the moon formed by the red mist in the sky. He was afraid, but at the same time, a vague idea appeared in his head. However, that idea was a mess. He had not figured it out yet, but he had a feeling that once that messy idea became clear, then it would be of great help to him. As the booming sounds came from the sky, strange cries came from the dark parts of the forest behind them. A dozen people closed in on them. They were the third wave of pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe. The person leading them was the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. Behind him, Su Ming saw the sullen Baisu. The moment the pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe closed in on them, Su Ming ran towards the back of the crowd without any hesitation. Bei Ling, Lei Chun, the head of the guards, and the others followed behind him. The remaining berserkers from Dark Mountain tribe rushed out, besides the tribe leader and the other 3 berserkers. They wanted to stay behind their tribe members and fight as they retreated. There were tears in the tribe leader's eyes. He averted his gaze from the people behind him and led his tribe members forward under the protection of the light from the statue of the god of berserkers. His tribe members ran and supported each other, not letting any of them fall behind. Besides the tribe leader, Wula also protected them. Her level of cultivation was not high, so she was left behind by the crowd. The last person to stay by the side of the migrating crowd was Shanhen. He did not choose to fight, but chose to stand quietly outside the crowd. He picked up a few children who were too tired to walk and followed the rest of the tribe. Su Ming did not turn his head back. Instead, he charged forward silently with murderous intent and engaged in a bloody battle with a dozen people from Black Mountain tribe. He held the long spear in his hands. The spear was entirely red, as if it was dyed in blood. As Su Ming chased after the enemies from Black Mountain tribe, as the booming sounds reverberated in the air, life and death filled the air. The strongest among the pursuers from Black Mountain tribe was the tribe leader of Black Mountain tribe. The person fighting against him was Nan Song. A powerful chi burst forth from his old face as he fought against the incoming bone blade. The chi in Su Ming's entire body was boiling. The 243 blood veins in his body turned into one under fine control. With killing intent, he flung the long spear at a shocking speed towards one of the tribe members from Black Mountain tribe. Once he exploded, Su Ming closed in on him like an afterimage. He grabbed the long spear and turned around abruptly, crashing into the bone blade coming at him from behind. His body trembled and his right hand went numb. He took a step back and the blade arrived. Blood flowed out from the corner of the man's mouth, and he staggered back 3 steps. Before the man could regain his footing, Su Ming had already charged forward. He did not care about his injuries and closed in on him. He clenched his left hand into a fist and threw a punch. The man from Black Mountain tribe did not have time to dodge. He could only use the bone blade to block the attack. The blade was facing Su Ming, but Su Ming's left hand did not stop. He clashed against the bone blade. Blood spilled out from his fist, but there was a cracking sound. The bone blade could not withstand Su Ming's great strength and shattered, turning into countless shards that tumbled backwards. The man from Black Mountain tribe was shocked. He coughed out blood and used the force of the impact to retreat. Yet Su Ming's speed was even faster. He closed in on the man, and just as he was about to kill the man with hatred burning in his heart, a strong sense of danger rose within him. His expression did not change. At that moment, he shifted half a step to the side. There was a sharp pain in his chest. It was as if a great force came from behind him and turned into a sharp blade that pierced through his back. Blood gushed out from the right side of his chest. A sharp arrow pierced through his body, as if it wanted to pierce through his body. With that great force, it pushed his body to the side. Yet the moment the arrow was about to pierce through his body, Su Ming grabbed the arrow that had pierced through his right chest with his left hand. He shook his left hand and negated the force of the arrow, causing it to stay in his body. Su Ming knew that the most serious injury caused by an arrow was when the arrow pierced through his body. Once the arrow pierced through his body, a large amount of blood would flow out. Yet if the arrow was still in his body, it could block up the wound, causing less blood to flow out, allowing him to continue fighting. Su Ming turned his head around and saw the head of the guards from Black Mountain tribe in the distance. He had tried to kill the tribe leader of Dark Mountain tribe, but failed. He was about to draw his bow again when the head of the guards from Dark Mountain tribe closed in on him with a low growl and fired an arrow. The 2 people who were skilled with bows started a battle of life and death in the forest. Su Ming averted his gaze. The moon in the sky may have been blocked by the blood mist, but the moonlight still managed to pierce through the mist and fuse into Su Ming's body without anyone noticing. It was a moonlit night. The night belonged to Su Ming, but it was a pity that the moon was covered by the red mist. He moved forward and swung his left hand before him. A shapeless ray of moonlight shot out. The man from Black Mountain tribe who had escaped death shuddered. In the midst of his confusion, a line of blood appeared on his neck, and his head fell off. Before it even landed on the ground, Su Ming, who had caught up to him, kicked it. The head spat out blood and charged towards the tribe member from Black Mountain Tribe who was fighting against Lei Chun not too far away. At that moment, Lei Chun was in a life-threatening situation. His level of cultivation was not high enough, and he was also injured. He was at the end of his rope. The person fighting against him was an ugly man at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. The man laughed viciously and punched Lei Chun in the chest, causing blood to flow out of the corner of Lei Chen's mouth. With excitement, he was just about to tear off Lei Chen's head when a whistling sound rang in the air. The head that was kicked by Su Ming was imbued with the power of Su Ming's qi. It charged towards him, and while the man was still stunned, it crashed into his body and exploded. The man staggered and coughed out blood. Lei Chun lifted his head and pounced on the man. The man fell down. The qi in his body was a mess. He knew that his life was hanging by a thread. In his panic, he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood towards Lei Chun. Lei Chun knew that he could not dodge. If he missed this chance, and the man started circulating his qi, he would definitely die. He allowed the arrow of blood to close in on him, and he raised his left hand to block it. Intense pain came from his left arm, and some of the blood even landed in his right eye, causing him unimaginable pain. His right eye immediately became blurry, and black blood flowed out of it. However, his body closed in on the burly man. As the burly man cried out in fear, Lei Chen's right fist smashed into his head. One punch after another, the burly man's entire body was blasted apart. As he laughed brokenly, Lei Chen's right eye turned black. Yet he did not regret his actions. Even his broken laughter was filled with determination. At that moment, he saw two people from Black Mountain Tribe approaching him with his left eye. As Lei Chun laughed viciously, there seemed to be a voice shouting in his heart. "Closer, closer. Let me use my flesh and blood so that you won't be lonely on the road to hell." Just as Lei Chen's blood veins were about to self-destruct, a person charged towards him at an incredible speed. That person was Su Ming. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to save Lei Chun, but his speed affected his wounds. As blood flowed out, Su Ming swung his right hand forward. Immediately, moonlight flew towards one of the Black Mountain Tribe members beside Lei Chun. That person was about to cut off Lei Chen's head, but the moment he lifted his blade, he immediately saw the madness in Lei Chen's left eye. Shocked, he wanted to retreat, but his entire body was suddenly filled with pain. His vision instantly turned black, and his body was torn to pieces. The moment he died, Su Ming arrived. He did not bother about the other Black Mountain Tribe member who was forced to retreat by the madness in Lei Chen's eyes. Instead, he kicked Lei Chen's swollen blood veins that looked like they were about to explode. Su Ming's level of cultivation was higher than Lei Chen's. The kick instantly shattered Lei Chen's qi, causing his self-destruction to stop. As Lei Chun was stunned, Su Ming picked him up without hesitation and carried him on his back. With moonlight as a rope, he tied the rope around his back. "Su, don't speak. If we're going to die, we'll die together." Su Ming turned around abruptly and continued his slaughter. Tears fell from Lei Chen's eyes. He looked at Su Ming's side profile and did not speak for a long time. Su Ming handed him a strange-looking horn. Once he held it in his hands, he fought alongside Su Ming. Compared to Su Ming, the battle between Nan Song and the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe was even more shocking. Nan Song was not fighting against the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe alone, but against 5 people, including Bai Su, and he was not at a disadvantage. Yet if one were to compare the intensity of the battle, it would be the battle between the heads of the guards from Black Mountain Tribe and Dark Mountain Tribe. The arrows whistled through the air quickly and viciously. By the end, the two of them had already fired multiple arrows at the same time. Bailing's father was filled with killing intent. He had to kill the head of the guards from Black Mountain Tribe. If he was still alive, he would be a great threat to the tribe. In the end, the legs of the head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe were crushed. With that price, the head of the guard from Black Mountain Tribe was pierced through his heart. The moment he died, the head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe, the man, smiled. The battle to stop them only lasted for a short while before casualties appeared. There were only 6 people left from the original 9 people from Dark Mountain Tribe. With Nan Song leading the way, the 6 of them retreated as they fought. Bei Ling was heavily injured. When he saw that his father had lost his legs, he also carried his father on his back and staggered to catch up with the team. However, he himself was also near the end of his road. There were also a few corpses left in Black Mountain Tribe. There were only 9 of them left. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe was also injured. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth as he looked at Nan Song. He did not expect Nan Song to be so strong, yet they had to kill them all. Under his lead, they quickly chased after Su Ming. Bai Su's eyes sparkled. He had already noticed Su Ming's presence and was shocked by his power. He understood Dark Mountain Tribe. There was no one like this among the younger generation of Dark Mountain Tribe. He watched as Su Ming carried Lei Chun on his back as he retreated. He looked into Su Ming's eyes, and suddenly, a sense of familiarity rose within him. The determination in Su Ming's eyes made him remember a mysterious person that Black Mountain Tribe could not find no matter how hard they tried. Mo Su. You're Mo Su. Bai Su's eyes narrowed as he pointed at Su Ming and cried out. The moment he spoke, most of the people from Black Mountain Tribe who chased after Su Ming did not have much of a reaction. However, the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, who was injured during the battle against Nan Song, was stunned. He looked at Su Ming and his eyes shone brightly. Those who kill him will be rewarded with 10 women from Dark Mountain Tribe. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe suddenly said. The moment he said those words, all the people who were chasing after Su Ming turned their gazes towards him. The battle in the sky was still ongoing. The booming sounds shook the sky and earth. As the blood mist continued tumbling about, most of the moon in the sky was revealed. The moon was at its brightest at that moment. The moment it was revealed, a large amount of moonlight shone down on Su Ming's body, causing his body to recover rapidly. The moonlight surrounded his body, causing the shadow of the blood moon to appear in his eyes at that moment. It was not a blur. It was incredibly clear and replaced his pupils. At the same time, the 5 summits of Dark Mountain trembled. Within the summits, numerous wings of the moon roared. They were so excited that they wanted to rush out madly. It was especially so today. It might not be a full moon, but it was close. The moment the moonlight shone brightly, an indescribable presence erupted from Su Ming's body. The first person to feel it was Lei Chun. Soon after, all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe who were retreating felt it clearly. At the same time, the people from Black Mountain Tribe who were looking towards Su Ming were also shocked when they saw the blood moon in his eyes. What's that? What's in his eyes? Moon. It's the blood moon. The blood moon appeared in his eyes. Chapter 96. Blood Moon. A startling blood moon appeared in Su Ming's eyes. The moon exuded an enchanting aura, causing all those who saw it to be shocked. At that moment, Bai Tu, who was fighting against the elder in the red mist in the sky, suddenly felt an indescribable irritation in his heart. That irritation appeared out of nowhere, but it was not the first time it appeared in his body. He remembered clearly that a few months ago, he had felt the same irritation and uneasiness. It was as if his chi was no longer under his control and was about to leave his body to worship something. And Mo Sang, who was fighting against Bai Tu, was already at his limit. But at that moment, a glint appeared in his eyes. He noticed a change in Bai Tu's chi and took a step forward. The dark python beside him roared and took the chance to cast the might of his berserker art. At that moment, the blood mist in the sky tumbled violently, as if Bai Tu was retreating. This scene made the people on the ground not only shocked by the blood moon in Su Ming's eyes, they were also shocked by the battle between the strongest berserkers in the sky. Retreat. A glint appeared in Nan Song's eyes. He waved his arm and quickly retreated with the berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe by his side. As they retreated, the 9 people from Black Mountain Tribe suppressed the fear in their hearts and no longer looked to the sky. Instead, they chased after them. Once they retreated 1,000 feet, Nan Song bit the tip of his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood. His blood turned into a gigantic blood-red arm that swung towards the 9 people from Black Mountain Tribe. A thunderous sound reverberated in the air, and the ground seemed to tremble. The gigantic blood-red arm blocked the pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe 500 feet away. I can feel that there are still some berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe on their way here. I'm going to cast my berserker art. Protect me and buy me some time. As Nan Song spoke, he immediately sat down cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. His presence disappeared in an instant, but the blood veins on his body twisted strangely as if they were about to form a picture. Bei Ling carried his father on his back. At that moment, he no longer had any strength left to fight. Even running was difficult for him. As for the head of the guards, he had lost both his legs and was forcing himself to stay conscious. But by the looks of it, he was about to collapse. Lei Chen struggled down from Su Ming's back. Compared to Bei Ling and the others, he might be at the end of his tether, but he could still fight. He stood guard by Nan Song's side. At that moment, besides Su Ming, there was also a man in his 30s. His face was drained of blood, and his left arm was a bloody mess, but he held a long spear tightly in his right hand. Once he cast a glance at Su Ming, he stood right in front with him. Su Ming. The leader's weak voice came from behind Su Ming. This bow is for you. When Su Ming turned his head around to look, the head of the guards looked at him and gestured for Bei Ling to take his bow and throw it to Su Ming along with the remaining 3 arrows. From now on, you are the head of the guards of the Dark Mountain Tribe. I've seen your archery before. It's very good. The head of the guard smiled and closed his eyes slowly. He did not die, but fainted because he could no longer hold on. Su Ming took the bow and arrows. The bow was very heavy. There was a murderous aura coming from it, and there was also a lot of blood on it. Once Su Ming held it in his hands, he placed the quiver on his back without a word. He nodded at Bei Ling and turned around to look at the people from Black Mountain Tribe who were being blocked by the giant hand formed by Nan Song's blood. Time passed by quickly. In the span of a breath, an incredibly terrifying presence slowly brewed within Nan Song's body. It could be imagined that once he completed the process, the berserker art he would cast would definitely be incredibly shocking. Yet at that moment, the giant blood-red arm suddenly shattered. The 9 people from Black Mountain Tribe rushed out with ferocious looks on their faces and charged towards Su Ming and the tribe member beside him. Killing intent flashed in Su Ming's eyes. He lifted the bow with his left hand and quickly brought out an arrow from his back with his right hand. In an instant, he drew the bowstring, and the bowstring formed the shape of a full moon. An indescribable presence erupted from Su Ming's body. All the blood veins on his body appeared as if they were gathering on the arrow. When he let go of the arrow, a piercing whistle shook the sky. The arrow brought with it a murderous madness as it whistled through the air as if it wanted to pierce through the air. In an instant, it closed in on one of the 9 people from Black Mountain Tribe. Su Ming knew that he could not waste even a single arrow. That was why he did not aim for the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe or Bai Su, but for a member of the Black Mountain Tribe who was at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. The arrow left the bow and turned into a ray of dark light. In an instant, the chest of the member of Black Mountain Tribe exploded. The arrow pierced through his body, and he was dragged back a few steps before he fell to the ground. At the same time, when Su Ming brought out the 2nd arrow and drew the bow, the remaining 8 people from Black Mountain Tribe were only 300 feet away from him. It was as if the arrow would close in on them even before it was released. Yet at that moment, the man in his 30s beside Su Ming laughed loudly and rushed forward. As he closed in on them, without any hesitation, his entire body let out a piercing red light. The blood veins on his body swelled up. He wanted to self-destruct his blood veins. He wanted to use the explosion of his body to hold back Black Mountain Tribe and buy as much time as possible for Su Ming's arrow. Su Ming was silent. He used his actions to express his sorrow and anger towards his tribe member sacrifice. The moment the 2nd arrow was released, he heard a loud bang. It was the sound of his tribe member dying. It was not that the man in his 30s did not care about his life, but at that moment, When comparing his life to his tribe members, he chose the safety of his tribe member. As he self-destructed, the loud bang reverberated in the air, and the 8 people from Black Mountain Tribe were held back for the span of 3 breaths. During those 3 breaths, Su Ming's second arrow pierced through the heart of another Black Mountain Tribe member, causing him to cough out blood and die. At the same time, Su Ming's third arrow was released when the explosion of his tribe member weakened. The arrow left the bow. Su Ming did not look at the result. He slung the bow over his back and rushed forward without hesitation. A blood-red light flashed in his right hand, and blood scales appeared in his hand. Su Ming, who had learned to be silent, did not roar. Instead, he charged forward without hesitation. Behind him was Nan Song, who was preparing his powerful berserker art, Lei Chun, who did not have much combat power, Bei Ling, who was heavily injured, and the unconscious head of the guards. The only one who could fight was Su Ming. He could not retreat. He could only move forward. His vision was starting to blur. The arrow that pierced through his chest was still there. He did not dare pull it out. Once he did, his injuries might worsen. Besides, the hidden dangers of forcefully increasing his power were starting to surface. He rushed forward alone, and before him, including the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, there were still 6 people left. These 6 people may all be injured, but they were closing in on him at a maddening pace. Lei Chun clenched his fists, but he knew that he was the last line of defense. Even if he died, he had to die a worthy death. He took a few steps forward and stood before Nan Song. As he watched Su Ming fight, tears fell from his eyes. Su Ming, you said it before. I can't die first. If I die, then we have to close our eyes together. I will. There were no loud bangs. Su Ming seemed to have turned into a mute, but his attacks were so ruthless that they surpassed everything he should have at his age. With the long spear in his hands, he fought against the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe was a powerful berserker at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm. He was even stronger than Yi Wang. He may have been injured, but he was still not someone Su Ming could fight against. The moment they clashed, blood trickled down Su Ming's mouth. He used his body to withstand the tribe leader's punch, but he twisted his body in a bizarre manner and swung the long spear in his hands horizontally. His target was the person beside him. That person was a berserker at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. He was standing by the tribe leader's side. He was originally smiling viciously. It was as if he could already see Su Ming's body exploding, but he could not see it. Blood scales closed in on him and pierced through his right eye while he was still stunned. With a bang, the spear nailed him to the ground. At the same time, Su Ming coughed out blood and tumbled backwards. The moment he fell to the ground, the remaining 5 people from Black Mountain Tribe were about to charge past him, but Su Ming struggled to stand up. He laughed brokenly and spread his arms wide. The moonlight from the sky shone on his body and surrounded him in threads. With a flick of his arm, those threads charged towards the 5 people. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. He lifted his right hand and pushed Bai Su away, causing him to use the momentum to leap up and charge towards Lei Chun with killing intent. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe let out a low growl, and a blood-red light erupted from his body. At the same time, a blood-red bear of about 100 feet appeared behind him. That was the manifestation of his berserker mark that had yet to solidify. The moment the bear appeared, it let out a roar that shook the sky and used its body to block the moonlight threads Su Ming had thrown. However, he had underestimated Su Ming's unique art. The moon may not have been full, but it was almost there. The moment the might of the moonlight touched the blood bear, it immediately penetrated it, causing the blood bear to let out a shrill roar. However, a glint appeared in the tribe leader's eyes. The blood bear exploded, and with the force of its explosion, it shattered the moonlight threads. At the same time, a wave of impact swept through the area and landed on Su Ming's body, causing him to cough out blood and be flung into midair. Su Ming's mind was clouded in midair. He saw dozens of people from Black Mountain Tribe charging towards him from the forest. He saw Lei Chun, who was standing before Nan's song, roaring as he charged forward. His enemy was the cruel Baisu. Is it over? But I can still fight. I still have an arrow. Everything before his eyes seemed to have slowed down at that moment. He could not hear any sound, but his eyes were fixed on Baisu, who was closing in on Lei Chun. His body was enveloped by the moonlight. Su Ming grabbed the bow with his left hand and grabbed the arrow in his chest with his right. He yanked it, and the sharp pain turned into killing intent. As blood spilled all over his body, he placed the blood-stained arrow on the bow and fired at Baisu. Chapter 97. That arrow was stained with Su Ming's blood. As it charged forward, it looked as if moonlight had gathered on it. From the distance, it did not look like the shadow of an arrow, but the blood-red light of the moon. Baisu had just closed in on Lei Chun. His sinister and savage smile was still on his face, but it froze in an instant. He felt a terrifying sense of danger coming from behind him. That sense of danger came too quickly, and he did not have much time to think. At that instant, an arrow closed in on him, yet a large amount of blood-red fog suddenly appeared on Baisu's body. That fog gathered into the shape of a wings of the moon and enveloped Baisu within it. The fog of the wings of the moon could block all attacks below the Transcendence realm. Baisu knew this. His elder, Baitu, had said it himself. Yet the instant the arrow touched the wings of the wings of the moon formed by the fog let out a piercing screech, as if it was afraid of the blood on the arrow. It melted at a speed visible to the naked eye, causing the arrow to pierce through the fog and charge towards Baisu. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. Blood spilled everywhere. The incoming arrow pierced through his body and landed under Lei Chun's feet. Baisu trembled and fell to the ground with a crash. His eyes were wide open, and he was like a fish that had left the water. His breathing quickened, and he clutched his chest, as if he wanted to stop the blood and life from flowing out his body. Yet that arrow contained Su Ming's anger and grief, along with all his power. It was an injury that Baisu did not understand. "No, it's impossible," the elder said. "I won't." Indescribable terror appeared on Baisu's face. He could not believe all of this. He could not believe that he would die. His body was cold, and despair appeared in his eyes. He did not want to die. He was afraid of dying. He was still young. He was not even 20 years old. He was the prodigy of Black Mountain tribe. He should not die like this. He still wanted to become the strongest berserker above Windstream. He still wanted to make Bai Ling his woman. He wanted to make Bai Ling's beautiful face cry under his body. He had too many things to do. He had never thought that he would actually die here. His death was so sudden, so unexpected, and he was not prepared at all. He opened his eyes and fell to the ground. In his eyes, he could see the blood-red sky, the blood-red moon, and Elder Baitu's figure in the blood-red mist. That was the last thing he saw in his short life. Baisu died. The moment he died, the tribe leader of Black Mountain tribe was stunned. Disbelief and fear appeared on his face. He was not afraid of Dark Mountain tribe, but of Black Mountain tribe's elder. He knew that the elder, Baitu, was a cold, cruel, and temperamental person. In his eyes, his tribe members were not his equals. They were his slaves. The only person he cared about was Baisu. Baitu had practically given his all to Baisu, and now Baisu was dead. The tribe leader's face immediately turned pale. He was not the only one stunned. The two people beside him were also stunned. Their faces were instantly filled with fear and panic. They even forgot to attack. Su Ming's body fell to the ground with a bang, causing more blood to flow out of his chest. However, that pain could not be seen on Su Ming's face. There was a smile on his face, and that smile seemed to be directed towards a certain girl. Killing Baisu had always been Su Ming's plan. He killed him not only to prevent him from getting close to Lei Chun and Nan's song, but also because of the greed in his eyes when he saw Bai Ling in the field of Windstream tribe. At that moment, another wave of Black Mountain tribe members charged out from the forest behind the tribe leader of Black Mountain tribe. They were thousands of feet away from where they were. Yet at that moment, A roar filled with extreme anger and sorrow came from the blood mist in the sky. That voice belonged to Baitu. Su-air. That voice was like thunder. It shook the ground, causing the snow on the ground to explode and the ground to tremble continuously. As the voice traveled forth, a person with a sorrowful expression charged out from the blood mist in the sky. His eyes were fixed on the unmoving Baisu on the ground. Who killed my Su-air? All of you must die. All of Dark Mountain Tribe must die. Baitu rushed over with monstrous killing intent, but before he could even get close, a cold harumph echoed in the fog. Elder Imo Sang lifted his right hand with blood at the corners of his lips, and the weather changed. The dark python beside him roared and charged forward, blocking Baitu's path with brute force, causing him to be unable to descend. As Baitu roared, the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe shuddered and snapped out his days. Fear filled his heart. He knew that he had to redeem himself, or else he would not be able to withstand the elder's wrath. At that moment, he no longer cared about Nan's song. He turned his head around and glared at Su Ming, who was not too far away. He took huge strides towards him. He wanted to kill Su Ming and redeem himself before by Tuesday. Only then would he be able to preserve his life. The two people beside him also reacted to the situation and charged towards Su Ming. There was still a smile on Su Ming's face as he looked at the three people closing in on him. He knew that he had succeeded. What he needed to do next was to make his blood veins explode and buy some time for Nan's song. However, at that moment, Nan's song, who was in the distance, suddenly opened his eyes. His body trembled, and a crack appeared at the center of his brows. A green figure of light swiftly flew out from the crack. Once it flew out, Nan's song's expression immediately became dim, as if he had lost all signs of life. The figure of light was an indistinct blur. Once it appeared, it took a step forward. It was so quick that it closed in on Su Ming in an instant. It waved its hand at the three people from Black Mountain Tribe. Immediately, a thunderous sound reverberated through the air. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe coughed out blood and tumbled backwards. The other two people's bodies crumbled, and they died instantly. The moment the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe landed on the ground, the dozens of Black Mountain Tribe members behind him closed in on him. The ones leading them were two men in black robes with dull looks on their faces. "You're finally here." Nansong's voice came from the figure of light. It floated before Su Ming, and as it spoke, it lifted its hands and slammed them on the ground. The moment it did so, the ground started moving like waves. Banging sounds reverberated in the air, and two gigantic hands made of mud shot out from the ground and closed around the dozen enemies, including the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. They let out muffled screams of pain and trapped them within. The figure of light turned around. As it looked at Su Ming, it lifted its right hand and it left its body. It turned into spots of green light that fused into Su Ming's body, causing Su Ming's muddled mind to immediately become clear. The sharp pain in his body was replaced by a warm feeling, and he quickly recovered. The figure of light became dimmer and floated back to where Nan's song was. Once it entered his body through the crack at the center of his brows, the crack closed up. Nan's song opened his eyes. There was fatigue in his eyes, and his face was ashen. These people from Black Mountain Tribe aren't the main point. The battle between the elders is the key to the survival of the tribe. The fallen berserker art that Baitu has yet to cast is very strong. Let's go, he's about to cast it. Nansong stood up and let out a low growl. He brought Lei Chun and the others and retreated quickly. Su Ming's injuries had mostly recovered by then. He knew that Nansong had saved him, but he did not even have time to thank him. He immediately felt the presence of death descend from the sky. The snow on the ground instantly turned black. The trees in the forest around them also withered and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Su Ming's expression changed. He quickly increased his speed and caught up to Nansong and the others. He helped support Lei Chun, Bei Ling, and the others as they ran towards the direction of the inner part of the tribe. Behind them, the forest instantly withered. Wisps of black air seeped out and charged into the sky. The black snow on the ground also spread out rapidly, as if it was chasing after Su Ming and the others. Time passed by quickly. Before long, when the black snow behind Su Ming and the others no longer spread out, a loud rumble came from the sky. The entire sky seemed to be trembling, and the presence of death filled the air. Su Ming was worried about the elder, but he could not turn his head back. He brought Lei Chun and the others along with Nan Song and ran. Finally, they caught up to their tribe members who were rushing forward. When he saw that none of them were injured and that they were the same as before, Su Ming let out a sigh of relief in his heart. When the people from Dark Mountain Tribe saw Su Ming and the others returning, their faces were filled with sorrow, but also excitement. They were sad, because only 5 of the 9 people who had stayed behind had returned. The head of the guards was unconscious after losing his legs. Bei Ling was heavily injured, and blood flowed out of his mouth continuously. Lei Chun had lost his right eye, and his face was filled with fatigue. Nan Song may have looked normal, but his pale face showed signs of death. Su Ming was covered in blood. His chest was a bloody mess. If it was not for Nan Song healing him, he would have died by now. Once they returned, the common healers in the tribe immediately took the unconscious head of the guards and brought him into the crowd to be treated immediately. Bei Ling escorted his father back to the tribe, but he could no longer hold on and fell into Chan Xion's arms. Black Mountain Tribe has reinforcements. They must still have people chasing after them. I can't kill them all by sacrificing my life, but I can trap this group of people and buy time for the tribe. Let's go. Nan Song panted and looked at the tribe leader, who was standing in front of the tribe. The tribe leader did not ask any questions. Instead, he brought his tribe members and moved forward at an even faster speed. Yet they did not travel far before a thunderous roar shook the sky, causing a large amount of ripples to appear in the sky. A gigantic dark python fell from the sky. There were many parts of its body that were damaged. With a loud bang, it landed not too far away from the tribe. It struggled to lift its head once again. As it stirred up a large amount of snow, another old person fell from the sky. Su Ming saw that person clearly. It was the elder. The elder coughed out blood, and his body fell rapidly. Behind him was a gigantic blood-red wings of the moon. It chased after him ferociously. Behind the wings of the moon was Bai Tuesday. His face was pale, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. There was anger and murderous intent on his face as he closed in on Su Ming. It was as if no one could save the elder. The situation was pressing. Chapter 98. Bai Tu's strength and the wings of the moon formed by his berserker art were enough to strike fear into the hearts of all those who saw it. After all, the people who lived in the tribe were very familiar with the wings of the moon. Bai Tu's killing intent filled the air. With his power of the Transcendence realm, even the elder was forced to retreat. Who could fight against him? The wings of the moon, chasing behind the elder, were closing in on him ferociously. It was as if it would catch up to the elder before he could even fall into the light of the statue of the god of berserkers. At that moment, all the people of Dark Mountain Tribe were filled with grief and madness, but they could do nothing. At that moment, even the tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe could not help the elder. Nan Song slapped his forehead, and a crack appeared at the center of his brows. The dim green figure charged forward as if it wanted to help the elder escape, but the distance between them was a little too far. Even if the green figure was extremely fast, the wings of the moon were less than 30 feet away from the elder. Su Ming's mind was blank. His closest kin was facing death, but there was nothing he could do. He watched as the wings of the moon closed in on him and opened its ghastly mouth. Just as it was about to swallow him, Su Ming, who had been silent all this while, let out a shrill cry. That shrill cry contained all of Su Ming's strength. His wounds tore open once again and blood flowed out. Yet he did not notice it. In his eyes, there was only the wings of the moon that were about to swallow the elder. His body seemed to be out of his control as he charged forward madly. His shrill cry echoed in the air and fell into the elder's ears, as well as the wings of the moon that were about to swallow him. The shadow of the blood-red moon in Su Ming's eyes seemed to be burning at that moment. The feeling of his blood burning filled him once again as if it wanted to burn his entire body. As he roared, there was only one thought in Su Ming's mind. The wings of the moon must not hurt the elder. That thought turned into a loud bang in his head. Su Ming's vision became blurry and blood flowed out from his eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. He felt as if he was flying and leaping over the ground. With an unbelievable speed, he closed in on the elder who was falling from the sky, closed in on the wings of the moon that were about to swallow him, and even rushed into the wings of the moon's body. Suddenly, a strange scene appeared. The gigantic wings of the moon's body suddenly trembled. Its expression showed that it was struggling, but the struggle disappeared in an instant. What replaced it was a bright light. It looked at the elder in front of it, flapped its wings, changed direction, and went straight for the stunned Bai Tuesday. The elder's entire body trembled. In that instant, when he looked at the wings of the moon, there was a hint of familiarity in those eyes. Su Ming did not know why, but he felt as if he was the wings of the moon. He turned around and charged towards Bai Tuesday. While Bai Tu was still stunned, he crashed into him. Bai Tu did not know what was going on. The wings of the moon formed by his chi berserker art could not be controlled by him. As the wings of the moon closed in on him, a glint appeared in his eyes, and he quickly retreated. He wanted to dispel the wings of the moon formed by the berserker art, but to his shock, he discovered that his berserker art was completely useless. The wings of the moon suddenly closed in and crashed into him with a loud bang. The wings of the moon shattered and turned into a large amount of blood that exploded. Bai Tu coughed out a mouthful of blood and was forced back hundreds of feet with a shocked expression. The moment the wings of the moon exploded, Su Ming felt himself being bounced off and falling rapidly. When he returned to his body trembled as if he had regained his senses. By then, the elder had safely landed in the crowd. He sat down cross-legged under the light from the statue of the god of berserkers and took out 7 bone needles with his right hand. He pierced them into his body. At the same time, Bai Tu's hair was a mess as he stood in the sky. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and stared at the elder in the statue of the god of berserkers. Even if the strange change just now had shocked him, he could not care less about it now. He had to kill Mo Sang and all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe. He charged towards the ground. He was so fast that he closed in on the elder in the blink of an eye. At that moment, 3 of the elder's bone needles had already pierced into his body. Mo Sang, even if you give up your life now, you're still no match for me. Bai Tu closed in on Nan's song in an instant. He lifted his right hand and was about to strike the floating statue of the god of berserkers. Yet at that moment, the green shadow that flew out from the center of Nan Song's brows closed in on Bai Tuesday. Nan Song, you've learned the verdant berserker chains well, but you haven't understood its essence. Bai Tu laughed maniacally and waved his arm. Immediately, a green light crawled out from his arm and turned into a shadow that charged towards Nan Song's green shadow. When they crashed into each other, Nan Song's green shadow crumbled. Only a small part of it tumbled backwards and returned to his body. Nan Song's entire body withered, and he looked at a bag of bones as he coughed out black blood. A roar came from the crowd on the ground. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe, the man who looked like an iron tower, leaped up and charged towards Bai Tuesday. He could not allow Bai Tu to destroy the statue of the god of berserkers and interrupt the elder sacrifice. At that moment, the elder had already pierced 5 bone needles into his body. His entire body trembled, and a powerful presence erupted from his body. That presence immediately made Bai Tu's heart tremble. Get out of my way! Bai Tu no longer cared about anything else and charged towards the statue of the god of berserkers. He hurled a punch at the approaching tribe leader. The tribe leader trembled and coughed out blood as he tumbled backwards. His body withered in an instant, just like Nan's song. Yet his retreat did not mean that the people of Dark Mountain Tribe were retreating. The berserker who did not stay with Su Ming and the others to protect the tribe rushed out recklessly and used his flesh and blood to block Bai Tu's path. Yet the moment Baitu waved his arm, the berserker's body immediately turned into a skeleton and disappeared into thin air. There was a look of struggle in Shan Hen's eyes as he stood in the crowd. He also rushed forward, but he stopped himself with his hands clenched tightly into fists. Su Ming also rushed forward. Lei Chun was right behind him, but the distance between the two of them was quite far. As they rushed forward, Bei Ling, who was very close to Baitu, woke up when Chun Xian brought him into the crowd to be treated by the common doctors due to his heavy injuries. He roared and pushed Chun Xian away before leaping forward. Yet before he could even get close, Baitu pointed with his right hand, and Bei Ling's right arm instantly turned into a puddle of blood. As the blood continued spreading, Bei Ling let out a pained cry and fell to the ground once again. The elder was trembling. The sixth bone needle fell, and the seventh was already in the air. Su Ming and Lei Chun were still hundreds of feet away from each other when they rushed towards the statue like madmen. Yet Baitu was already closing in. He slammed his right hand towards the statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe. The moment his palm landed, a brilliant light erupted from the statue. A large amount of cracks appeared on the surface of the statue, and it exploded, turning into countless shards that flew everywhere in midair. Dark Mountain Tribe's statue of the god of berserkers was the symbol of Dark Mountain Tribe. At that moment, right before the eyes of all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe, it shattered along with the will of Dark Mountain Tribe. When the statue of the god of berserkers exploded, Baitu charged ferociously towards the elder, who was about to stab the seventh bone needle into the top of his skull. Suddenly, a woman with a bloody face appeared in the crowd. That woman was Wu La. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness to part and sorrow. She was the closest to the elder. At that moment, she rushed out and stood before the elder with her life on the line. Her eyes were filled with determination. Baitu let out a cold harumph. As he closed in, he swung his hand forward, and a huge force crashed into Wu La's body. As she coughed out blood, her body was swept up and she fell towards Su Ming. At that moment, the elder's seventh needle was completely inserted into the top of his skull. If it were not for the fact that his tribe members did not care about their own lives and bought him enough time, he would not have been able to complete this sacrifice. The elder suddenly opened his eyes and let out a deafening roar. His roar was filled with rage towards the deaths of his clansmen, as well as a monstrous killing intent. His body charged out and once again engaged in battle with Baitu, who was charging towards the sky. All of this happened in an instant. It happened so quickly that it was hard for anyone to imagine. Su Ming felt a stab of pain on his right cheek. It was a broken statue of the god of berserkers that shot towards him. A bloody gash was left on his cheek. Blood flowed out, but Su Ming did not feel any pain. He saw Wu La's body rapidly withering away. Before she even landed on the ground, she had already turned into a thin and withered person. Su Ming's mind was blank. He went forward and hugged the falling Wu La. Wu La's face was ruined. At that moment, she was only skin and bones. Blood flowed out from the corners of her mouth. She looked at Su Ming, who was hugging her, and smiled. "Are you Mo Su?" She struggled as if she wanted to lift her hand to touch Su Ming's face, but she did not have the strength to do so. "Yes," Su Ming said softly with a sorrowful expression. "You aren't," Wu La mumbled. Her eyes lost their luster and became empty. She lowered her hand and gradually stopped moving. At that moment, the elder, who was fighting against Baitu in the sky, let out a loud roar. "Su Ming, take your tribe members and leave." As he roared, an extremely powerful ray of light descended from the sky. That ray of light looked like a gigantic blade of light. As it descended, it cut down on the area outside the crowd. The ground trembled, and cracking sounds rose into the air. A huge ravine that was hundreds of feet wide swiftly split open. The end of the ravine could not be seen. It was as if it had separated the tribe from their pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe, who could appear at any moment. There was also a screen of light that shot into the sky from within the ravine. There were no longer any tears in Su Ming's eyes. Instead, they were filled with a deathly stillness that was terrifying. Lei Chun, who was by his side, looked as if he wanted to say something, but when he saw Su Ming's eyes, he swallowed his words. At that moment, Su Ming made him feel fear. His eyes were empty, as if he was a dead person. Yet within that emptiness, there was the shadow of the moon shining. Su Ming put down Wu La's corpse gently and picked up a broken piece of dark mountain statue of the god of berserkers from the ground. He placed it in his bosom like a precious treasure. The wound on his face caused by the broken piece of the statue was a terrifying sight. He did not wipe off the blood on his face. Instead, he looked at his tribe members. "Let's go." That was all Su Ming said. He lifted up Nan Song and the dying tribe leader. Once he handed them over to Lei Chun and the others, he walked at the front of the team. Bei Ling did not die. He had lost an arm. He struggled to stand up and looked at Su Ming's back quietly. At that moment, he felt that Su Ming had changed in a way that made him feel unfamiliar. That change terrified him. It was as if some sort of presence had awakened within Su Ming's body. Perhaps that presence should not have awakened, and neither should it have appeared, but now it had appeared. Su Ming's face was calm, but there was a cold glint in his eyes. He had learned to endure pain and sorrow. His footsteps were very steady. Step by step, just like the clan leader from before, he led his clansmen forward. Chapter 99. Su Ming held onto the long spear and walked at the front of the crowd. Behind him were the tribe members who were not protected by the statue of the god of berserkers. There were no elderly among them. There was still more than half of the road ahead of them, but Su Ming's footsteps were becoming steadier. There was too much blood from Dark Mountain tribe left in the forest along with the souls of the deceased. Now, besides Su Ming, Lei Chun and Shan Hen were the only berserkers who could continue fighting. As for the tribe leader and Nan Song, they continued on their way with the help of their tribe members. They were anxious and wanted to recover as quickly as possible. As for Bei Ling, he had completely lost the right to continue fighting. He had lost an arm, and a large amount of blood flowed out of his wound. If it were not for Chun Xian, he would have fallen a long time ago. Shan Hen was also covered in blood at that moment. In silence, he walked at the back of the tribe with a dazed look on his face. There was a complicated look on his face, along with an indescribable emotion. Every single time that emotion appeared, he would press his hand against his chest. It was as if there was a force that could support him and allow him to continue moving forward. Mo Sang and Black Mountain Tribe by Two's battle in the sky turned into booming sounds that did not disappear even after a long time had passed. Even when the sky was bright, the battle continued. It was as if the two of them would not stop until one of them died. The ravine on the ground, the screen of light that rose into the sky, and the berserker art that Nan Song sacrificed his life to fight, all of these things bought a lot of time for the tribe to migrate. When the sky brightened, all the members of Dark Mountain Tribe were exhausted. They had been walking for 2 consecutive nights. They did not seem to be able to last much longer in the cold, but they still gritted their teeth and used their fastest speed to migrate. The sky was already bright. Sunlight shone on the ground and fell on the tribe members in the forest. It was slightly warm, but the cold from the snow on the ground was bone-chilling. With our speed, we should be able to reach Windstream Tribe by this time tomorrow. Lei Chun said softly beside Su Ming. There's only 1 day left. Lei Chun clenched his fists. Su Ming was silent for a moment. As he walked, he spoke hoarsely. It's not 1 day, it's half a day. When he heard that Su Ming was no longer silent, Lei Chun let out a sigh of relief. He was very worried about Su Ming's silence. We should be able to enter Windstream Tribe's territory tonight. Once we leave the forest, we'll be much safer, Su Ming said calmly. I hope we'll be safe today. Lei Chun turned around and looked at his tribe members. When he saw their tired faces, he sighed in his heart. He then looked at Su Ming, who was standing before him. His frail back made him feel as if he was standing on a mountain. Time slowly passed. 2 hours later, a weak voice rang out from the crowd. That voice was filled with determination as it floated in the air. Su Ming, let me stay. The person who spoke was the heavily injured Lu Di, who had been playing the sun. He had been taken away by his fellow clan members, but now he was unable to continue. He didn't want to be a burden to his clan members. Lu Di struggled to stand up and looked at Su Ming, who had stopped and was looking at him. A smile appeared on his face, and he walked towards a big tree by the side. He leaned against it and sat down, but it affected the wounds on his body and blood flowed out once again. All of you go. Lu Di took out the bone sun and placed it by his mouth as if he wanted to play a song. Yet he did not have the strength to do so. He looked at the sky and waited for death to come. Su Ming was silent. He closed his eyes as well, but he opened them very soon. He did not speak. He only looked at Lu Di deeply before he turned around and led his tribe members forward. Along the way, a few other tribe members smiled and stayed behind. They did not want to be a burden to their tribe. Bei Ling also wanted to do the same, but as Chun Xian cried and forced herself to carry him, he could not say anything. The head of the guards also woke up on the way. He may have lost his legs, but he still had the strength to fight. He was carried by one of his tribe members. He did not stay behind. Instead, he prepared to explode his blood veins at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm so that his enemies would be able to catch up to them. Su Ming remained silent. He did not stop any of his tribe members who wanted to stay behind, but his fists tightened. He knew that the elder had given Dark Mountain tribe to him so that he could bring them to safety. He had to complete his task. When dusk arrived, Su Ming's heart finally relaxed. They walked out of the forest and arrived at the vast plains that belonged to Windstream tribe. This place was much safer than the forest. After all, this was Windstream tribe's territory. If berserkers from Black Mountain tribe trespassed without orders, Windstream would definitely not allow them to do so. Once all the members of Dark Mountain tribe entered the plains, the tribe leader and Nansong also recovered some of their power. It was as if the disaster was about to pass. Yet at that moment, the entire ground suddenly trembled. The center of the tremor should have come from somewhere far away. Yet the strength of the tremor could still be felt clearly by the people who were there. The elder's seal has been broken. Nansong closed his eyes and opened them after a moment. He spoke slowly. As his words traveled out, the people from Dark Mountain tribe became nervous once again. With Black Mountain tribe's speed, they'll need some time to catch up to us, but they'll definitely catch up to us before we reach Windstream tribe. If we bet that Black Mountain tribe won't dare to step into Windstream plains, then we can ignore them. Nansong said softly. We can't afford to bet on them. Su Ming stopped and looked at the dark forest behind him. He turned his head around and looked at the tribe leader who had recovered some of his power. He looked at his skinny face that looked as if he had lost a lot of flesh. Tribe leader, there were a lot of people who stayed behind. I didn't stop them. That was their choice. Now it's my turn to stay. As Su Ming spoke, he walked toward the back of the crowd. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain tribe, the man in his 40s, looked at Su Ming. This La Su, whom he had not paid much attention to in the past, had shocked him greatly. He sighed and nodded his head. I'll stay as well. Lei Chun did not hesitate. He walked out and stood beside Su Ming. Su Ming looked at him, and Lei Chun looked back at Su Ming with a silly grin. You said it before. I can't die first. If we die, we should die together. I'll stay as well. Nansong took a deep breath. There were even more wrinkles on his old face. His face was gray, but there was a faint hint of a sickly red on it. Me too. The head of the guards, who had lost his legs, spoke in a low voice. I'll stay as well. Bei Ling turned his head around and did not look at Chun Xian's tears. He looked at Su Ming and said firmly, Head of the guards, you can't stay. We still need you to help the tribe leader protect the tribe. Once you reach Windstream tribe safely, you still have to teach the La Sus how to use the bow. The one who spoke was Shan Hen. This man of few words walked out from the crowd. He was usually a man of few words, but when he spoke, his tone was firm and unquestionable. As for you, Bei Ling, Shan Hen walked to Bei Ling's side, and a complicated look appeared on his face once again. Uncle Shan Hen. Bei Ling was just about to speak when he saw Shan Hen raise his right hand and swing it at Bei Ling's neck. Bei Ling's words were immediately cut off, and he fell unconscious. You're the future hope of the tribe. You can't go. I'll stay. Shan Hen spoke calmly and walked towards Nansong. He stood there and looked at the familiar faces in the tribe. After a long while, he lowered his head. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe fell silent. He walked forward and took out a beast bone the size of a baby's fist from his bosom. The beast bone was white and looked normal. He handed the bone to Su Ming. "Take it. This is a pair of bones. It has a strange effect. When it turns red, it means that we've reached Windstream and we're safe." Su Ming took it quietly and placed it in his bosom. The tribe leader of Dark Mountain Tribe looked at the people who stayed behind and sighed softly. He turned around and led the tribe members towards Windstream with determination. The normal members of Dark Mountain Tribe did not lose too many people, but the things they saw on the way made all the tribe members turn their heads back to look at the four people standing there. They could not stop their tears from falling. No one knew who was the first to wave, but soon all the tribe members waved goodbye to Su Ming and the other three with tears in their eyes. They knew that these four people might not be able to survive. Just like the tribe members who had sacrificed themselves, they were prepared to use their lives to build the final barrier of flesh and blood to protect their tribe members. "Brother Su Ming." A young and tender voice rang out from the crowd. It was the little girl called Tong Tong. She ran out. Su Ming took a few steps forward and crouched down to stroke the girl's slightly dry hair. "Brother Su Ming, once everything is over and the elder is back, can you help Tong Tong find Pippi?" A smile appeared on Su Ming's face. He kissed the girl's forehead and nodded. A sweet smile bloomed on the girl's face. She looked at Su Ming and suddenly whispered into his ears. "Brother Su Ming, I have a secret. Even my parents don't know about it. Even Pippi doesn't know about it. You have to come back. Once you do, I'll tell you about it." As the girl spoke, she bit her lip and forced back her tears. Then, she turned around and ran into the crowd. Su Ming watched as she ran into the crowd and waved at him. Once she gradually left with her tribe members, the smile on his face slowly disappeared. Everything was silent. The moon in the sky slowly grew clearer. That night it was a full moon. The full moon hung high in the sky, and when it fused with the silence of the land, it seemed to be filled with a desolate, killing intent. The moonlight was also much brighter than before. It shone on the plains and cast the shadows of the four people on them. They were lonely, but determined. Su Ming sat down cross-legged. By his side was Lei Chun, and before them was Nan Song, who had his eyes closed. As for Shan Hen, he was not too far away. He sat alone and looked at the sky. No one knew what he was thinking about. "Lei Chun, sit behind me. Your power isn't enough. You won't be able to fight fiercely. Let me borrow your chi to ensure your safety," Nan Song said slowly. Lei Chun did not hesitate. He immediately got up and went to Nan Song's side. He sat down cross-legged behind him. Nan Song cast some unknown method, but a blood-red light appeared on both of their bodies and enveloped them within. After that, no one spoke. They were waiting for the pursuers from Black Mountain Tribe to arrive. Su Ming sat quietly. He grabbed the snow on the ground with his left hand and washed his uninjured left palm. Once his left hand was clean, he brought out a small bottle from his bosom and poured out a blood-red medicinal pill. He held it in his left hand and closed his eyes. Time passed by slowly. For hours later, when the moon in the sky was at its brightest, Su Ming felt as if his blood was about to boil. "They're here," Nan Song said. Su Ming opened his eyes. Chapter 100. 11 people. 11 people rushed out from the dark forest. They were led by the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe and were charging towards them. Among them was a man in black robes with a dull expression on his face. It was clear that the screen of light, the ravine, and Nan Song's berserker art had played a huge role in his actions. They looked tired. They no longer had the excitement and screams from before. Dark Mountain Tribe was not the only one who died in the battle between the two tribes. Most of the people who died were the members of Black Mountain Tribe. The head of the guards of Black Mountain Tribe had died, the vice chief of the hunters had died, and the chief of the hunters had also died. More importantly, their prodigy by Su had also died. A large number of berserkers had died. This was a huge blow to Black Mountain Tribe. If it were not for the presence of the men in black robes, and the tribe members who had been forcefully increased by Tu's fallen berserker art, it would have been difficult for them to succeed. Black Mountain Tribe had not expected that Dark Mountain Tribe would be so difficult to destroy. They had to pay a huge price. Perhaps even the elder of Black Mountain Tribe, Tu, did not expect this. He was completely held back by Mo Sang. With his power of transcendence, he could not be of much use in the battle between the tribes. If time could flow back and Black Mountain Tribe knew of this result, then perhaps they would not have immediately started the battle. They would have needed more time to prepare. Even if Black Mountain Tribe won this battle, they would still have suffered a huge loss. More importantly, once the people from Dark Mountain Tribe reached Windstream, then Black Mountain Tribe would have died for nothing. They would not be able to obtain any spoils of war. Besides the man in black robes, all the people from Black Mountain Tribe who came here were filled with regret. Yet now that the battle had reached this stage, they had no other choice. They could only persevere. Bai Su's death made the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe even more determined to kill Su Ming. Su Ming's face was calm as he looked at the 11 people coming towards him. A chilling glint appeared in his eyes. He held blood scales tightly in his right hand and stood up. Nan Song and Shan Hen were silent, but killing intent appeared in their eyes. Only Lei Chun did not move. However, his eyes were also filled with madness and murderous intent. Almost at the instant the 11 people from Black Mountain Tribe were 1,000 feet away from him, Nan Song took a step forward. The blood-red light on his body surged into the sky, but there was still a thread of connection between him and Lei Chun, who was behind him. The blood-red light on Lei Chun's body became even thicker, as if it had turned into a blood screen. With a low roar, the clothes on Nan Song's upper body exploded. His old face seemed to have become younger in an instant. The muscles on his arms bulged, and as he roared, he pressed them towards the ground. With that, a huge vortex appeared under the feet of the 11 people. The vortex was filled with mud, and hands made of mud reached out to grab their feet. Nan Song charged forward. Behind him, Su Ming charged forward at full speed. Shan Hen's eyes were filled with killing intent and complicated emotions. He lifted his right hand, and a crescent moon-bone blade immediately manifested in his hand. Then, he floated forward like a phantom. As for Lei Chun, he was trembling. His face seemed to have aged in an instant, as if some of his life had been sucked away. The mud on the ground could hold back most of the people from Black Mountain Tribe, but it could not do anything to the man in black robes. He stomped on the ground with his right foot, and a large amount of the mud immediately exploded. He charged towards Nan Song. A bloody battle was about to begin. Su Ming did not make a sound. He did not bother with the man in black robes, and neither did he choose to fight against the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. Instead, he charged towards the remaining 9 people. The highest level of cultivation among these 9 people was only at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. Most of them were around the 6th level. With Su Ming's speed, as long as the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe was held back by Shan Hen and he had enough time, he would be able to kill them all. Shan Hen closed in on them in a strange manner. He chose to fight against the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. In the blink of an eye, the two of them clashed against each other. Rumbling sounds reverberated in the air as they fought against each other. Su Ming's speed was incredibly fast. He ignored the pain in his body. Under the full moon in the sky, his entire body seemed to be enveloped by moonlight. A clear shadow of the blood-red moon appeared in his eyes. In an instant, he closed in on one of the people. The long spear in his hand whistled through the air, and the moment he passed by that person, a deep wound appeared on his body. However, the head of the person who passed by him flew into the air, and blood spilled all over the place. Su Ming landed on the ground. His breathing was rapid, but he did not stop. He charged forward. Moonlight surrounded his body and seeped into his body through his wounds, as if allowing his body to continuously recover in this state. As he charged forward, 5 of the remaining 8 berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe closed in on him. The other 3 quickly circled around them, intending to leave the place and continue their chase into the plains. When Su Ming saw the three of them charging into the distance, the five berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe closed in on him. Without any hesitation, Su Ming leaped into the air. He did not throw the long spear in his hand. After all, even if he threw the spear at the three people in the distance, he could only kill one of them. That was why Su Ming threw the long spear towards the ground beneath his feet. Blood-red light instantly spread out from the long spear and turned into a gigantic blood-red eagle that charged towards the ground. With a bang, it landed on the ground right under Su Ming's body, stirring up a wave of air and an impact that caused the five people who were closing in to freeze. Su Ming also used the force of the impact to let go of blood scales. With the force of the impact, he charged towards the three people who had circled around him. His speed was incredibly quick. As the 243 blood veins on his body glowed red, he closed in on the three people running away like a red shooting star. These three people were not ordinary either. Without any hesitation, one of them was left behind to block Su Ming's path. The other two shone with a blood-red light, and their speed increased. The chi under the blood-red light showed the power of those at the peak of the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. The person who blocked Su Ming's path also used some unknown method to hide his power. Due to the short duration of the battle, Su Ming did not notice it. As the blood-red light shone on his body, the power of chi at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm erupted from his body. There was madness on his face, and he wanted to hold Su Ming back. The blood veins on his body swelled up rapidly, as if they were about to explode. Su Ming was close to the explosion of the same level, and he was also exhausted and injured. There was no way he could fight against it. Yet if he retreated, then he could only watch as the two people disappeared from his sight and bring disaster to the tribe's migration. Almost at the instant the man who was blocking Su Ming's way chose to self-destruct, some of the wounds on his body tore open once again, and blood flowed out of them. You're not the only one who can self-destruct. We from Black Mountain Tribe can do it too. The man roared and smiled viciously at Su Ming. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Not only did he not retreat, he even increased his speed. The moment he closed in on the man and all the blood veins on his body were about to explode, Su Ming opened his left hand, which had been clenched into a fist, and swung it at the man's wound. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the man's wound. The man shuddered and widened his eyes. The moment the blood veins on his body were about to self-destruct, the blood in his body started burning. The moment Su Ming moved past him, he turned into a ball of red mist and rose into the air. This scene was seen by the two people running in front of him. The people behind them also saw it, and goosebumps appeared on their skin. Fallen Berserker. He's a fallen Berserker. Cries of surprise suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Even Nan Song and Shan Hen immediately noticed it. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, who was fighting against Shan Hen, had a drastic change in expression and shock. Even the man in black robes, who had a blank expression on his face, was momentarily stunned when he looked over. Soon, a bright light appeared in his eyes, as if he had discovered something. However, he was fighting against Nan Song. The moment he was stunned gave Nan Song a chance. Booming sounds rang in the air, but Su Ming did not stop. He charged towards the two people who had been shocked by his methods just now. The two of them gritted their teeth and immediately split up, but at that moment, Su Ming coughed up a mouthful of blood. The moment his blood appeared, it turned into fog and spread towards the person to his left with a howl. That blood mist contained Su Ming's vast chi. It was the result of him casting dark blood dust. At the same time, he charged towards the person on his right and started fighting against the people from Black Mountain Tribe. After a moment, a few more wounds appeared on Su Ming's body. He panted harshly, and the blood-red light covered his entire body. His eyes shone like the blood-red moon as he ran towards the people fighting. Behind him, there were two unmoving corpses lying on the ground to his left and right. Their bodies were a bloody mess. There were only 7 people left on the battlefield from Black Mountain Tribe, besides the man in black robes and the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. The other 5 people were shocked by Su Ming's slaughter and the terrifying image of the fallen Berserker tribe that appeared in their minds. They looked at each other, and a rare thought of retreating appeared in their minds. Yet suddenly, Shan Hen, who was fighting against the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, coughed out blood and tumbled backwards. He was heavily injured by the tribe leader's punch and was thrown back towards Nansong. The tribe leader's face was filled with killing intent. The blood bear manifested behind him and roared as it chased after Shan Hen. It swung its claw made of blood mist, wanting to deal a fatal blow to Shan Hen. The blood bear's claw was about to land on Shan Hen's body. Since he was very close to Nansong, Nansong's expression changed. Without any hesitation, he leapt up and grabbed onto Shan Hen. At the same time, he punched the blood bear's claw that was chasing after him. With a bang, Nansong fell back. "Retreat and heal your wounds. I'll deal with these people." Nansong spoke quickly, but suddenly he trembled. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth, and his body rapidly withered. A sorrowful look appeared on his face as he hurled his palm towards Shan Hen. The moment Shan Hen was saved by Nansong, he lowered his head and used the scimitar in his right hand to cut down on the line of blood between Nansong and Lei Chen. No one knew what he did, but at the same time he cut off the line of blood, he also stabbed the scimitar deep into Nansong's body. Chapter 101. The moment the blood vein broke, Lei Chen trembled and coughed out a mouthful of blood. Shan Hen was sent flying by Nansong's palm. His face turned pale, and he staggered several dozens of feet back when he landed on the ground. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth, and there was a complicated look on his face. There was guilt and pain on his face, and he lowered his head as if he did not dare face Nansong. All of this happened too quickly. In the blink of an eye, the tables had turned. Su Ming stared at Shan Hen and laughed brokenly. Shan Hen's face was pale. Blood continued trickling down the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, he lifted his head and let out a shrill cry. He turned around and no longer looked at Nansong and Su Ming. Instead, he ran madly towards the forest. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the forest. As his cries of pain faded into the distance, Shan Hen also disappeared into the forest. At the same time, the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe laughed viciously, as if he had expected this to happen. He charged towards Nansong, and the man in black who had been fighting against Nansong just now also threw a punch towards Nansong, still injured. Nansong's face was filled with grief. His face was pale, and his body had withered until he looked like a skeleton. The crescent moon blade had been stabbed deep into his back, and blood continued flowing out of it. At the instant the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe and the man in black closed in, Nansong suddenly laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with desolation, and his body trembled. Immediately, a long crack appeared at the center of his brows, and a dim green shadow swiftly shot out towards the incoming enemies. At the instant it closed in on the man in black and the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. The green shadow exploded with a bang and turned into a shocking wave of impact that swept out in all directions. The man in black was already injured, and he could not withstand the impact. His fragile eyes immediately shattered, and as he screamed in pain, he retreated. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe also did not expect that Nansong would be able to use such a method, even though he was heavily injured. He also knew that the crescent moon blade stabbed into Nansong's body contained a powerful poison that could freeze blood and prevent a powerful berserker's blood veins from exploding. That was why he dared to get close to Nansong. That blade was originally prepared by Black Mountain Tribe for the elder of Dark Mountain Tribe, but an accident happened, and they had to use it on Nansong. The patriarch of the Black Slaughter clan coughed out a mouthful of blood. He could no longer suppress the injuries in his body, and as he coughed out blood, his aura became even weaker. He retreated hundreds of feet, and his face was filled with shock. At the same time the cyan shadow exploded, Nansong's eyes suddenly shone brightly, as if all his injuries had been healed. He took a step forward and directly arrived in front of the heavily injured man in black. He punched the man in black who was unable to dodge in time. A boom rang out, and the black-robed man's body trembled. His chest was a mass of blood and flesh. His eyes dimmed, and he died. And Song did not stop. He looked at the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, who was not too far away from him. His expression was calm, and he charged forward. The tribe leader's face was filled with terror. He screamed and quickly retreated. Once he closed in on the remaining 5 tribe members of Black Mountain Tribe, he saw that Nan Song had already closed in on him. Without any hesitation, he grabbed one of the tribe members beside him and sent a wave of power into him before throwing him towards Nan Song. The screams of pain from the Black Mountain Tribe member were drowned out by the sudden explosion from his body, which turned into a large amount of blood mist. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe roared in fear and panic. Retreat. As he spoke, he and the remaining 4 Black Mountain Tribe members rushed into the forest without a care for the world under their protection. They were completely terrified, especially when they saw how strong Nan Song was. They could not believe what they were seeing. To the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe, his life was too precious. He could not stay here. Besides, he knew that the next wave of reinforcements from Black Mountain Tribe was already on the way. As long as they met up with each other, they would be safe. You want to leave? Nan Song did not even look at the self-destructing Black Mountain Tribe member in front of him. He swung his right hand, and the blood mist instantly dissipated. Once he landed on the ground, he pushed his hands against the ground. Instantly, the ground under the tribe leader and the other 4 people's feet started trembling. A gigantic hand made of mud shot out and grabbed the tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe. In the midst of the madness of the tribe leader, he pushed the tribe member beside him away once again and avoided death, but he seemed to have lost all his courage. He did not even turn his head back. With the other 3 tribe members, he rushed into the forest and fled. Black Mountain Tribe that has lost its honor, get lost. Nan Song did not chase after them. Instead, he stood there and let out a shocking roar towards the forest. Everything that had happened just now had happened within the span of a few breaths. Su Ming closed in quickly and saw Nan Song standing there. He watched as the people from Black Mountain Tribe ran away and his body visibly weakened. The tribe should be safe now. The next wave of Black Mountain Tribe members won't arrive so soon. Many of them have died, and they're already thinking about retreating. Nan Song continued standing there. The crack at the center of his brows let out a gray light. I fulfilled my promise with your elder. I've repaid him for saving my life all those years ago. Nan Song looked at Su Ming, and a smile appeared on his face. Grandpa Nan Song, Su Ming said softly. Honestly, even if Shan Hen didn't hurt me, I wouldn't have been able to last much longer. I originally wanted to use my verdant chains to heal all of you before I died, and I also wanted to make up for the part of Lei Chen's life that I sucked away. But now I can't do it anymore. Nan Song sighed softly and lifted his head to look at the sky. The sky in the distance was still filled with red mist. Faint rumbling sounds could be heard. He knew that Mo Sang was still persevering. If you can see Shan Hen, help me ask him why. Nan Song placed his hands behind his back and closed his eyes. He stood there unmoving. His body seemed to have taken root in the ground. Before him was the forest shrouded in darkness, and behind him were the tracks left behind by the people of Dark Mountain Tribe. Under the moonlight, his back was dragged out for a very, very long time. A tragic feeling filled Su Ming's entire body. He looked at the lifeless Nan Song, but did not touch him. Instead, he took a few steps back and knelt down before Nan Song, kowtowing 3 times. Su Ming. Lei Chen struggled to stand up and went to Su Ming's side. He also knelt down on the ground. There was sadness on his face. At that moment, he no longer looked like a teenager. He looked old, as if he was in his 40s. After a long while, a gentle breeze blew past and blew the snow on the ground. It blew the strands of hair on Nan Song's body that still stood tall even after he died. It also blew at Su Ming and Lei Chen's hearts. The tribe should be safe now. Lei Chen, you should go back. Su Ming stood up quietly. There was a cold glint in his eyes as he looked at the dark forest before him. Lei Chen touched his right eye. It was already blind. He fell silent for a moment before he shook his head. I'm not going back. I want to search for a power that can make me stronger. Only when I become strong will I not be humiliated. Only then can I protect the home and tribe members I want to protect. I heard that there's another tribe on the other side of the plains. That tribe is very far away, but it's even stronger than Windstream. I want to go there. No matter what price I have to pay, I want to become strong. Even if I have to become a fallen berserker, I'm willing. Determination appeared on Lei Chen's face, along with a hint of madness. However, that madness was only hidden deep within his eyes. It did not show on his face. Su Ming, you're different from me. Once you return to Windstream, you'll have a better future ahead of you. But we're brothers for life. Wait for me. One day, once I become strong, I'll come back. Lei Chen closed his eyes and mumbled. He went forward and hugged Su Ming. The two of them hugged each other quietly. After a long while, Lei Chen laughed loudly and turned around with his slightly aged back. He walked into the distance, towards the place where his dreams and perseverance lay. He walked further and further away until he completely disappeared from Su Ming's sight. Su Ming looked at Lei Chen. He did not try to persuade him, but instead watched him leave. He did not know whether he would see Lei Chen again. Su Ming was lost about the future. After a long while, he shook his head. Under the full moon in the sky, his confusion was replaced by a cold, murderous aura. He looked at the forest hidden in the darkness and took a deep breath. Now it's my turn to kill all of you. There's still Shan Hen. Su Ming turned his head back and looked in the direction of Windstream. His tribe members were hidden in that direction. Perhaps Bai Ling was still in Windstream. The promise. Su Ming closed his eyes in anguish. When he opened them once again, they were filled with a frightening calm. He took a swift step forward, and moonlight surrounded his entire body. Under the full moon, he was like a shadow that brought death with him. He disappeared into the forest and charged forward in pursuit of his target. Without the pursuers, his tribe members would reach Windstream City safely. Su Ming was certain of this. He also knew that he no longer needed to do anything for his tribe members during the migration. He had already done everything he could, but at that moment, he had something more important to do. He remembered clearly that when the elder of Black Mountain Tribe appeared, the vague thought that had appeared in his head amidst the familiarity. That thought exploded in his mind when he saw the elder being chased by the gigantic wings of the moon. When he felt as if he had flown up and turned into the wings of the moon that changed its direction and charged towards the elder of Black Mountain Tribe. The vague thought in Su Ming's head became clear. Fire Berserker art. I practiced the Fire Berserker art, and the wings of the moon were transformed from the Fire Berserker tribe members. That's why I can suppress them. Because I performed the third burning of blood, my blood seems to have fire as well. That's why I should be able to help the elder. The shadow of the crimson-red moon shone in Su Ming's calm eyes. It looked strange in the dark. His body was like a wisp of smoke as he charged through the forest. Before that, I have to make Black Mountain Tribe suffer. I have to make them feel the sorrow of their tribe members dying. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe is heavily injured now. The three people beside him are no longer a threat. And Shan Hen. Su Ming clenched his fists and lowered his head before disappearing into the forest. From being chased to being chased, from being the prey to becoming the hunter, Su Ming had changed a lot without his knowledge. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.